Chapter 492. My Main Body. Underworld Book. Underworld's two dragon eyes couldn't help but stare blankly after hearing this. Although it had been talking non-stop, it really didn't think about this aspect and couldn't help but be stunned. It's possible, it's really possible. Maybe my main body, the Underworld Book, was really sucked here by the treasure basin. After thinking for a while, Underworld couldn't help but become excited. It was the soul of the Underworld Book back then, but it was inexplicably tricked by someone. Not only was it sealed in the divine eye of heaven's punishment, but even the Underworld Book seemed to be torn apart page by page. The Underworld Book had 18 levels of purgatory, and each page was a level. Therefore, there were a total of 18 pages in the Underworld Book, and it was unknown how many parts it was divided into. If it was really possible, with the magic of the treasure basin, it might really be sucked into the Godsfall abyss. How could it not be excited when it thought of this? The Underworld Book was its main body. Once it could get the Underworld Book back, with the power of the Underworld Book, it could quickly recover its original strength in the shortest time possible. Once it recovered to its peak, with the power of the Underworld Book, even if it was an ancient giant or a venerable expert, it wouldn't take it seriously. How could it be like now, humiliated by being poked into the ground by a finger, and even jumped into the forbidden area of the Godsfall abyss? It would directly kill his grandma. However, after the excitement, Underworld became strangely silent. After a long silence, it said, "Lunatic D, it's better to leave this place as soon as possible. With the power of my main body's Underworld Book, and the ability of those old farts who imprison me in the divine punishment, they will definitely seal my main body. The treasure basin shouldn't be able to absorb it. As long as we don't disturb the soldier souls here, it shouldn't be difficult to leave." The voice was very calm as usual. Leave? Why the rush to leave? A meaningful look flashed in Sakra's eyes. With his willpower, it only took him a second to realize the reason why Ming suddenly changed the topic. It was none other than the fear that he would rashly touch the treasure bowl and the money tree. If there was really a book of Ming on it and he couldn't help but take it down, he would immediately be mercilessly chased by the soldier's soul. He was afraid that he would perish in this abyss. He could sense all of this, but it didn't mean that he had to shrink back. On the contrary, his curiosity towards the treasure bowl and money tree was no less than anyone else's. He said indifferently, "Since I've had the opportunity to enter the Godfall abyss, wouldn't it be a pity if I left without witnessing the glory of the treasure bowl and money tree with my own eyes?" Lunatic D, there was an indescribable light in Dark's eyes. Both Dark and D Shirtion were intelligent people. Some words didn't need to be spoken, and they could understand it in their hearts. She didn't say much, only burying the gratitude deep in her heart. "By the way, how is my mother now?" D Shirtion's voice changed as he placed his attention on his mother White Tiger. With a thought, a purple light flashed from the purple mark between his brows. Instantly, his mother White Tiger's huge body appeared in front of him. Looking at the White Tiger mother's wings and the natural pressure that came with the awakening of a divine beast bloodline, there was a faint feeling of power without being angry. However, the feeling of unfamiliarity that Elder Feng had when he'd taken over her body had completely disappeared. Instead, it was replaced by a strong feeling of kinship. The feeling of being connected by blood made D Shirtion feel waves of warmth in his heart. Mother, this was the aura of a mother. You don't have to worry too much about your mother. You arrived in time. When you arrived at the Thousand Beast sect, that despicable person had only begun to take over your mother's body. He temporarily sealed your mother's soul in her sea of consciousness. Once the seal is broken, she can recover. However what? However, your mother was clearly subjected to some sinister secret technique in the Thousand Beasts sect. I've observed carefully and found that your mother's soul is filled with violent and murderous thoughts. Her original consciousness has completely fallen into a state of chaos. Her state of mind is 100 times worse than the Azure Phoenix swordsman you've subdued." When Ming spoke, there was a hint of anger in his voice. In fact, when the white tiger was taken into the underworld prison, it had already carefully examined her and found that her consciousness was already in chaos. Her soul was filled with violent and murderous thoughts, not to mention that her mind was not clear. Once the seal on her soul was broken and she recovered, she would immediately become the same as when she was in the Thousand Beasts sect. No matter what she saw, she would explode with a strong murderous intent. There was no rationality to speak of. The Thousand Beasts sect had raised the white tiger for the purpose of taking over her body. They were truly ruthless to the white tiger. They almost didn't prepare to let her recover her consciousness. This was a big problem. This seal was not broken, but it was also not broken. Putting it here, it was a little difficult. Humph. The Thousand Beasts sect. Di Shirtian's eyes turned cold, and a violent, murderous intent surged in his heart. He said in a cold voice, "Although the mountain gate was destroyed this time, there is obviously a world behind the Thousand Beasts sect. What was cut off was only the tip of the iceberg. A large number of tribulation stage experts in the sect have already left. In the future, if this debt is not settled, how can the hatred in my heart be appeased? The Thousand Beasts sect, I want to exterminate the Thousand Beasts sect." A strong murderous intent flashed across his face. In short, he was not finished with the Thousand Beasts sect. Unless one of them was completely exterminated, this debt was deeper than the sea and higher than the sky. When his gaze fell on the white tiger, it became gentle. With a thought, he took her back into the divine eye of heaven's punishment. In this place, only the divine eye was the safest. It was difficult for any force to destroy it. He thought to himself, if it is only the mind that is affected and the memory is not completely erased, with the magical effect of the heart-cleansing Bodhi song, it should be useful for Mother. However, Mother's situation is 100 times more serious than Qing Xia and the others. Perhaps even the heart-cleansing Bodhi song can't completely remove the hidden danger in a short time. Now in the God's Fall abyss, it was obviously not the time to save the white tiger. In the divine eye, keeping her in a state of deep sleep was the only thing that could be done. "Let's go. I want to see the magic of the treasure bowl and the money tree with my own eyes." With a wave of his hand, he took the numinous sky throne into his body. He looked around, but the piles of bones could not shake his mind. Tiger's soul returned to the sheath, and his right hand was always in the position where it was easiest to pull out the knife. He had changed into a clean black robe. The black hair behind his head fluttered in the wind, and his eyes swept around like lightning. Crack! Crack! As he stepped on the piles of bones, the crisp sound of bones breaking continuously rang in his ears. In this quiet environment it was especially eerie. Vaguely, it seemed that there were countless pairs of eyes silently staring at him in the dark. Unconsciously, it made his hair stand on end. It's too quiet here. Could it be that all the soldier souls in the God's Fall abyss are in deep sleep? Di Shirtian said in his mind. Not everyone will come to this place. Although each of the 9 great forbidden lands is on the source continent, they are all connected to the other world. No matter which world it is, there will always be an entrance to it. However, those entrances are constantly changing, and it's difficult to find them. As for the soldier souls, most of the time they are in deep sleep, but once they sense that someone has touched the treasure, they will wake up. Generally speaking, it's normal for this place to be quiet. Once it becomes lively, it means that endless slaughter is about to happen. Dark side. Go away. Get out of my way. This source seed is mine. No one can take it away from me. With it, I can have a small world. Inner world. Suddenly, just as they were talking, a roar that clearly carried a crazy charm came from the southwest direction, not far away. The owner of the voice seemed to have fallen into a kind of madness. Tisk tsk. Someone dares to touch the treasure of the treasure bowl and the money tree. Is it the source seed of the world? Quick, lunatic D, go and take a look. Maybe you can see the soldier souls. Nether shouted excitedly. Good. Good. He urged him to go and see what was going on. It's really a treasure bowl. It can even take the source seed of the world. What an incredible innate spiritual treasure. Sakra secretly muttered in his heart, but his feet didn't have the slightest bit of hesitation as he silently swept through the air, rushing in the direction of the sound. In the abyss, there was a strange miasma everywhere. The place that one could see was not too far away, but the terrain was not completely flat. There were ups and downs, trees, mountains, and rivers. It was just that compared to the outside world, it was quite different. Now that he had made multiple breakthroughs and reached the fourth transformation of the Yaokor realm, he had the help of the quintessence energy from the seed of life. His cultivation base was now more than 10 times stronger than before. As he moved, he didn't make the slightest sound as he shot forward like a bolt of lightning. As he neared, he dove into the branches of an ancient tree, where he hid behind it and peered into the distance. With just a glance, he couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. A middle-aged cultivator was holding a crystal-like seed with a look of ecstasy on his face. Above his head hung a seemingly substantial painting. In the painting, a series of graceful and beautiful women were smiling as if they were alive. They flew out from the painting and condensed into a physical form with ribbons dancing around them. The middle-aged cultivator was protected in the middle. As the ribbons danced, the surrounding space twisted strangely. It was as if it had become an independent world in an instant. Domain 9 Beauty's painting. To be able to condense into a body, this domain had reached the mysterious grade. This was a powerhouse above the tribulation stage. However, this wasn't what made Sakra calm down. What really made his expression change was that soldier soul. I'm trying to write the 3rd chapter to see if I can write more. However, the weather is too cold. It's already 2 or 3 degrees below zero. My 10 fingers are frozen. I can't hold on any longer. I can't guarantee that I'll complete it, but I can only try my best. So, there's no need to keep waiting. Chapter 493. Puff, puff, puff. In the surroundings, there were countless broken swords stabbed into the ground. The shapes of the swords were strange, but most of them were incomparably dim. They emitted a desolate, deathly aura, as well as an unyielding determination to kill. Walking into this place, one's mind would be affected unconsciously. It was very strange. Judging by the appearance of these swords, no one would be willing to touch them. They were too broken. However, these swords seemed to be attracted by something in an instant. They woke up from their slumber and began to tremble violently. Strands of sword chi shot out from the swords. Within the sword chi, there was a mysterious intent. It was a pure intent to kill. Countless strands of sword chi gathered together, forming a terrifying sword chi vortex. Clang! A resounding sword sound broke the silence of the abyss. Boundless sword chi gathered in one place. When all the sword chi disappeared, an ancient blood-red sword appeared in front of everyone's eyes. Inside the sword, blood-red light was flowing, rippling in circles. It seemed that even the air around it was rippling. The strangest thing was that there were noses, eyes, and mouths on the sword. It looked like a person who was smashed flat. It sent chills down one's spine. It was as if it was a different kind of life form. This is the soldier soul? D. Shirtion suppressed the shock in his heart and swallowed a mouthful of saliva. Although he was quite knowledgeable, he had never thought that there would be such a strange existence in this world. This is the yellow-grade soldier soul. It can form into all kinds of weapons and treasures. It's almost the same as a real divine weapon. However, it can't be too far away from the sword. When it reaches the black grade, it can form into the shape of a human or other ferocious beast. Don't be fooled by its strange appearance. It's quite powerful. It can move freely. The source seed of the world in that cultivator's hand must have been obtained from the abyss. It's very difficult to escape. Ming glanced at it and spoke in an unsurprised manner. Obviously, it had seen the appearance of this weapon soul since a long time ago. The world source seed is mine, no one can take it away from me. A mere soldier soul can't hurt me. I can get the treasure, I have the mandate of heaven. Myriad demons devouring souls. The middle-aged cultivator's eyes lit up when he saw the soldier's soul. He laughed maniacally and his body shook. Demonic chi billowed out from his body and condensed into ferocious skulls that pounced on the soldier's soul. The 9 beauties circled around him. Colorful ribbons fluttered in the air, covering him completely. Even the space around him was distorted. The ribbons could be soft or hard. When they were soft, they were like water, causing countless ripples in the air. When they were hard, they were like the sharpest blades, cutting countless strange cracks in the void. It was already an independent space. Clang! The soldier's soul's blood-red eyes glowed with intense killing intent. When it saw the world source seed in the middle-aged cultivator's hand, it became agitated. He swung his sword forward. Countless blood-red sword lights shot out in a frenzy, filling the entire void in an instant. Wherever the sword lights passed, the void trembled incessantly. The devils that emerged from the cultivators were immediately turned into dust by the sharp and terrifying sword chi. Wherever it passed, all living things were annihilated. Charge! 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 The sword rays were as fast as lightning and carried with them boundless killing intent. They were terrifyingly sharp. In the blink of an eye, they arrived in front of the middle-aged cultivator's domain and slammed into it. Instantly, terrifying rumbling sounds rang out in the surroundings of the domain. In an instant, it was as though the entire space was trembling violently. The 9 supreme beauties within the domain immediately began to dance. Colorful ribbons fluttered in the air, emitting a mysterious energy that prevented the domain from being broken. At the same time, the blood-red sword rays were sucked into the domain and destroyed bit by bit. It seemed to be able to withstand the countless sword rays. However, the soldier's soul was instantly enraged. Its entire body was wrapped in a blood-red light. It streaked across the void and pierced towards the middle-aged cultivator's heart at an incredible speed. This time, it was no longer the sword rays but the soldier soul's actual body that was attacking. Pfft! Even in Sakra's eyes, he could only see a blood-red sharp light flashing past his eyes and appearing in front of the domain. In an instant, the sword pierced through the domain and broke the domain's defense. Thousands of blood-red sword lights burst out and wreaked havoc in the domain. The 9 beauties in the domain were twisted into pieces on the spot. Then, a blood-red light pierced through the middle-aged cultivator's heart. Even the demonic robe he was wearing was instantly torn apart. A fist-sized hole appeared where his heart was. It went from his chest all the way to his back. The middle-aged cultivator's maniacal laughter came to a halt. His eyes went blank and his body stiffened as he fell to the ground. One sword to break all laws. Deshirtian's eyes narrowed. With the power of the heavenly punishment divine eye, he could clearly see every movement of the soldier's soul. Concise. It was incomparably concise. Any attack in front of the soldier's soul seemed to be the most insignificant. Under the sword it would break, break, break. No matter how many techniques you have, I only need to wave my sword to break them all. Sharpness. It was a sword of slaughter that was unstoppable and indomitable. It was a sword of slaughter that contained only the most basic of essences. It used the simplest method to carry out slaughter. This was power, this was a sword Tao of slaughter. The soldier soul's attack was like the legendary technique that only sword cultivators at the peak of their cultivation could comprehend. There was nothing fancy about it. The domain was broken by the sword. The defensive Dharma artifact was pierced by the sword. Even the body and the primordial spirit within it were completely crushed. They couldn't be more dead. The soldier's soul was simply a weapon of slaughter. Crash! After the soldier's soul killed the cultivator, its body mysteriously dissipated into countless sword chi and returned to the broken battle swords. The battle swords on the ground also calmed down. However, the sense of death it exuded was still quite strong. It looked very strange. If one didn't see it with their own eyes, no one would have thought that such a terrifying soldier's soul would appear here and kill a tribulation-passing cultivator in an instant. Whoosh! Lunatic D looked. At this moment there was a crisp sound in front of him. He quickly looked over and saw that the source seed of the world that was in the middle-aged cultivator's hand was shining with a sparkling light after he died. It escaped to the center of the Godfall abyss. It seemed to be pulled by a strange force. This is the treasure basin absorbing the treasure. Once the middle-aged cultivator died, the source seed would be taken back to the treasure basin without an owner. If we follow it, we'll definitely find the treasure basin and the money tree. Deschertien's eyes flashed. He immediately understood. No, I suspect that it's time for the treasure basin to absorb the treasures without an owner every 3,000 years. If that's the case, there must be countless experts inside and outside the Godfall abyss, waiting for the moment when the treasure basin takes all the treasures in the universe. While Ming was talking, he suddenly thought of a possibility. A strange look appeared in his eyes. Quick, quick, Lunatic D, take that cultivator's divine soul into the infernal prison. There should be a trace of his divine soul left in his body. Maybe we can find out the general situation from him. The soldier soul's attack was too terrifying. The way it attacked was the kind of method that could break all techniques with one sword. When thousands of sword chi attacked his body, it had already crushed his divine soul. However, the shattered divine soul shouldn't dissipate immediately. Indra didn't hesitate and faced the corpse that had fallen on the ground. The purple mark between his eyebrows flashed and landed on the corpse. Suddenly, an incomparably illusory remnant soul was forcefully pulled out from the corpse. Take! With a soft cry, the divine soul didn't resist at all. It immediately flew into the divine eye of punishment. Soul search. More than half of the divine soul was broken. It was so illusory that it looked like it would disappear at any time. There was no power left. As soon as Ming entered the infernal prison, he immediately used the soul search art. In a moment, his expression became somewhat grave. TSK, Lunatic D, we've hit the jackpot this time. I was right. This is indeed the million treasures crimson tide that occurs once every 3,000 years. What's the million treasures crimson tide? Deschertion raised an eyebrow, instinctively feeling that something was wrong. Every 100 years, the treasure basin will absorb unowned treasures nearby. Every 1,000 years, its power will envelop the land of origin. Every 3,000 years, the power of the treasure basin will cover all the world. Every 3,000 years, the treasures drawn by the power of the treasure basin will be as vast as the ocean. It's like a tide of treasures rolling. What surges inside is not a tide, but countless rare treasures. Such a day has come again. In the Godfall abyss, any treasure that falls into the treasure basin or the money tree will be contaminated by the aura of the two natural spirit treasures. Therefore, no matter who it is, as long as they take the treasure from the treasure basin or the money tree and leave, they will alarm the soldier soul. They will be hunted down almost unstoppably. The only chance to obtain treasures from the Godfall abyss is the time every 100, 1,000, or 3,000 years. At that time, the treasures that were attracted from the universe did not fall into the treasure bowl or the money tree. Therefore, they were not contaminated by their auras. Even if they obtained the treasures, there was a great chance that they would be able to leave without alarming the soldiers. It's a grand occasion. No wonder all the cultivators above the tribulation transcendence level in the world of cultivators have left their sections. They're all looking for the entrance to the Godfall abyss. They're waiting for the arrival of the million treasures crimson tide. That's crazy. They gathered the power of the entire world of cultivators to set up the connate yin-yang dust formation to stabilize the God's Fall abyss. Oh my God! While reading the cultivator's memories, Dark suddenly screamed without a care for his image. He looked like he was about to jump up and down. To be continued. If you want to know what happens next, please go to www.chidian.com. There are more chapters. I support the author and I support the original readers. Chapter 494. The God's Fall abyss is always moving. It hides in the void. Every time it moves, the entrance changes. Only those who are really lucky can enter it. It's not fixed at any place. It's extremely difficult to calculate the fate of the heavens. Even if a peerless expert wants to enter, he or she would have to use their divine consciousness to search the universe for the entrance. But this time, it's fixed. The connate yin-yang dust formation. Oh my God, this is an ancient formation. Once it's used, it can turn into a golden bridge and fix the void. But it requires the Tai Chi diagram as the eye of the formation. Fixing the fallen god abyss? My God, this is an unprecedented amount of money. Who is it? Who is so bold? Aren't they afraid of angering the heaven-level soldier soul in the abyss? Dark was about to go crazy. Its two dragon eyes were flashing with insanity. Crazy, they're King crazy. They even dared to fix the fallen god abyss. This wasn't normal madness. They are indeed crazy. Shirtyen's eyes glittered and all kinds of thoughts flashed through his mind. He suddenly said, "They fixed the fallen god abyss. If I'm not wrong, it must be because of the million treasures red tide." The crimson tide contained countless rare treasures that had drifted down from all over the universe. Their purpose must have been for the treasures that were almost as huge as a tsunami. If they can get those treasures, it'll be a huge fortune. Think about it, the treasures that came like a tsunami. How much wealth would that be? Even a peerless powerhouse would be crushed to death by it. There were as many treasures as a tsunami. Just imagining it in one's mind was enough to make people completely crazy. If anyone could obtain it, they would immediately become the richest person in the entire universe. Then, if he wanted to establish a force or a sect, he would definitely have a meteoric rise and reach the heavens in a single bound. This time, the entire world of cultivators was trying to get the rare treasures that should have been sucked into the fallen god abyss. Once they got it, the entire world of cultivators would rise to the top. Countless overlords would be born, and they would have endless resources. How could this be an ordinary thing? This was an important matter that would last for thousands of years. No wonder the immortal cultivators would immediately leave once they reached the tribulation stage. It turns out that they were all doing this earth-shattering thing. No wonder they would compromise with us demons and sign an agreement for the immortal demon competition to release most of the demons. It turns out that all their energy is on this million treasures crimson tide. Shirtyen had many things that he could not understand in the past, but at this moment, it was as if the clouds had parted to reveal the bright moon. As long as they succeeded this time, the immortal cultivation world, whose strength had greatly increased, would definitely tear up the non-binding agreement. After their strength had greatly increased, it would be easy for them to turn around and deal with the demon clan. Opportunity. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. If Lunatic D could seize this opportunity, the construction of the Myriad Demon City and the cultivation of experts would be a piece of cake. This is rare, this is a great opportunity that is hard to come by. In the Wan Shou sect, you were poked into the ground by that finger. At that time, you felt that you had hit something. It must have been when the God's Fall abyss was fixed by the formation, which caused the space between heaven and earth to change. That was why it twisted and brought you here. Great luck, this is great luck. The place where you came in must be the weakest area between the God's Fall abyss and the purple gold continent. It can open up a passage between the two places. Even if the million treasures crimson tide really comes, it will definitely affect the entire God's Fall abyss. In the abyss, even the group of cultivators who temporarily fixed the abyss can't occupy all the areas. If you take advantage of this time to get a foot in here and make a big profit, the construction of the myriad demon city will be sped up by dozens or even hundreds of times. Lunatic D. Fortune comes from danger. D. Shirtion listened to Dark's constant nagging in his mind. His eyes flashed and various thoughts flashed through his mind. He was thinking about how much benefit he could get if he did that. After a while, his slightly drooping eyes suddenly opened. Light shot out 3 meters away. A decisive look appeared between his brows. He said with a hint of madness, "That's right. If I don't take what the heavens give me, I will be punished. The heavens have sent such a great opportunity to me. How can I give it up so easily? Although fortune and misfortune come together, fortune comes from danger. What's the point of being overcautious? Let's leave the God's Fall abyss immediately." Sakra made up his mind and didn't have any more hesitation. He turned around and rushed back to the area where he came from. That was the place where he first landed. If the God's Fall abyss was really temporarily fixed, it would not continue to move. In this case, if he broke through the void from there, he should be able to return to the purple gold continent and enter the Wan Shou sect. Go back. Go back for what? Of course, he would bring all his subordinates from the southern barbarian. He also had to bring the Linglong treasure pagoda with him. In the scene where treasures were rolling like a tsunami, the Linglong treasure pagoda's ability to absorb a large number of treasures was the best. But the southern barbarian? No, how could he let the human cultivators enjoy such a lively scene alone? The 8 demon kings, each of them was a huge force. With the heavenly thunder platform and the purple thunder rain secret technique, the number of demons behind each demon king would definitely increase by several times. If all of them gathered together, it would not be a problem to enter the God's Fall abyss together. At that time, not only would he do a favor, but he would also be able to spread his name among the demon clan. The whole demon clan would become strong. That was the real strength. He knew that he could not swallow such a big cake alone. Dark, when will the million treasure red tide begin? D. Shirtyen's figure shuttled through the air as fast as lightning, returning the way he came. The million treasure red tide usually takes 9 months to brew. It shouldn't take that long now, but at least 5 to 6 months. Nether said after a brief estimation. 6 months? That should be enough. D. Shirtion thought for a while and nodded. Not long after, he returned to the area where he was healing. Looking at the gray miasma around him, divine light flashed between his eyebrows. He opened the heavenly punishment divine eye and used the divine eye to break through illusions. He instantly found the weakest point of the abyss space and split open a crack with the tiger soul. He squeezed into the crack and sat upright on the throne. Void travel. The thousands of spatial fragments were all blocked by the canopy formed by the throne. The Wan Shou sect. The market at the foot of the mountain was crowded with people. It was more lively than some immortal cultivation cities. The place was big enough to accommodate millions of people. There were all kinds of businesses. Speaking of which, I personally witnessed the Tian Fa Demon King coming to seek revenge. TSK, how is that a demon king? He is even more powerful than a greater demon. You guys don't know, but when he used his tiger soul saber to display a supreme battle skill, he actually condensed an emperor. He held a jade seal in his hand, and when the jade seal smashed down, it broke the grand defensive formation. Even individual immortals didn't dare to block his attack. In my opinion, the Demon King of Tian Fa's strength must be the top among the 8 Demon Kings. Isn't that so? That eye is also very powerful. I've never heard of any divine ability that could cause one's cultivation to drop along with one's cultivation. If one were to encounter others, it would be fine if one were to be heavily injured. However, if one were to cause one's cultivation to drop as well, that would be too terrifying. I don't know if the demon king of Tionfa is dead or alive now. That day, he was stabbed into the ground by a finger. He must have angered some powerful expert. In the restaurants in the market, all kinds of discussions still revolved around the annihilation of a sect that happened here some time ago. Everyone was very interested. Until now, it had not cooled down. In one of the private rooms in the restaurant, a young man with a handsome appearance that was somewhat demonic sat alone. He continuously poured cup after cup of aged wine into his mouth. A faint evil aura hung at the corner of his mouth. His long and slender fingers were extremely white. However, there was a head of long blood-red hair behind his head. On the blood-red hair, there was a faint blood-red light flowing, and there were countless fierce souls roaring inside. It moved without wind, like a layer of blood-red waves drifting up and down. He listened attentively to the various discussions around him. Interesting, really interesting. I remember that among the peerless experts who destroyed my divine soul, the most were from the demon clan. However, the demon clan also lost many experts. If I didn't have a backup plan and sent a blood god's seed into the sky-reaching tower as a precaution, I might have been killed by those lunatics of the demon clan. TSK. Although the demon clan could resist my demon god clan, I didn't expect that they would be defeated by a group of ants from the human clan. It's really interesting. The demon clan has declined. Let's see what the human clan can do to stop the next calamity. The blood-haired young man laughed mockingly. His eyes were filled with blood-red light as he said, "To be able to knock down your cultivation, this is rather interesting. His name is Sakra. It seems like this god really has no choice but to meet you. Let's see if the demon clan has really declined completely." He shook the wine in his cup and it turned blood-red. He drank it all in one gulp. "Sir, the wine you wanted is here." The door of the private room was pushed open, and a cultivator dressed as a waiter walked in with wine. However, before he could see clearly, he saw a blood-red light suddenly pass through his body. Then, he didn't know anything. The blood of the creatures on the purple-gold continent is far more fragrant than that of my hometown. It's really delicious. The blood-red-haired young man had already walked out of the door, and the waiter had mysteriously disappeared. On the ground, a blood-red strand of hair flew through the air and landed behind his head, becoming one of the strands of hair. On a mountain not far from the Thousand Beasts sect, Tion, dressed in a black robe, carried the tiger soul on his back and looked around. When he saw the destroyed sect, a cold light flashed in his eyes. It's a pity that the finger fell and destroyed the illusory door leading to the Thousand Beasts realm. Otherwise, He glanced around and didn't stay here for long. He summoned the Lingshao throne and sat on it. He withdrew his aura and hid in the void, and rushed to the southern wilderness as quickly as possible. To be continued. If you want to know what will happen next, please go to www.chidian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author, support the original reading. Chapter 495. As for the owner of that finger, Sakra had always been brooding in his heart. Such a strong person was at least a venerable. Based on his past experience, the possibility of offending a strong person at the level of a venerable was not much. Could it be the original body of the clone that was suppressed in the Tong Tian Tower back then? Or is there some powerful powerhouse behind the Thousand Beasts sect? Otherwise, it's impossible for me to have any interaction with a venerable at any other time. Tion sat upright on the throne, and the throne rode the divine light forward. The speed of its flight was more than 10 times faster than its own speed. But even so, it would take at least 6 to 7 days to rush back to the southern wilderness. In his mind, he couldn't help but think about his previous experiences. Especially that finger, it came too mysteriously. If such an enemy was hiding in the dark and suddenly pointed at him, no one would be able to withstand it. What was even more terrifying was that this kind of enemy was unknown. That was truly terrifying. He wanted to take revenge, but he couldn't even find the target. After thinking about it, if he really offended him, there were only two possibilities. One was that time in the Tong Tian Tower, and the other was that time in the Thousand Beasts sect. The divine sealing tablet last time was said to be the famous treasure of Venerable Feng Shun. Although it was made by imitating the ancient Star Emperor's stellar sealing tablet, he was also a venerable. I destroyed a wisp of his primordial spirit. Could it be that he found out? That's why it attracted a disaster. He kept thinking about all kinds of possibilities in his mind. Among them, he felt that the most likely was the legendary Venerable Feng Shun. A venerable was too terrifying. Just the power of a finger could suppress him to the point that he couldn't even raise his head. After pondering to himself, his eyes flashed with an inexplicable light. This matter will be investigated sooner or later. If anyone offends me, how can I not return the favor tenfold or 100-fold? Di Shirtian's eyes flashed with a dangerous light. He paused for a moment, turned his gaze and said, "No, I must build the Thousand Demon City as soon as possible. Otherwise—" He did not continue speaking, but the meaning behind his words was very obvious. No matter who it was, they would not want the situation to repeat itself. Being poked to death by a finger? There was no more humiliating way to die in this world. With Di Shirtian's temperament, how could he be willing to let such a thing happen again? Construct a city. No matter what, he had to build the Thousand Demon City well. He gritted his teeth and made up his mind. His eyes shone with a fierce light. Strength. In this world, everything is fake. Only strength is the foundation of everything. Fourth Revolution Yaodan. Ancient Demon King. No, he was still too weak. He had to become strong. He had to become strong at all costs. Great Fei, Fei Saint, Heaven Fei. Step by step, I will climb to the highest peak. I will not allow anyone to kill me with just a finger. With Di Shirtian's cultivation time, he could reach the fourth transformation realm and become an ancient demon king. He could condense a territory and his combat power was comparable to that of the immortals and Buddhas. However, he still could not change his cultivation level. He was far from being comparable to those old monsters who had cultivated for thousands or even tens of thousands of years. If that was the case, they would have to seek external help. Thousand Demon City. He placed all his hopes on the Thousand Demon City. With the Thousand Demon City built with divine crystals and the heaven and earth embryonic membrane merged with the ancient city, the two became one. When the time came, he would integrate the divine restriction in the god-trapping sphere into the ancient city. The stellar demon sealing tablet would draw on the power of the stars. With everything added together, even without the four heavenly gates and the cloud-gathering banner, he would be able to stand on the same level as the venerables. He could not defeat them for the time being. Then he would first build an unparalleled demon city that would not be broken. To ensure his own safety, the numinous sky throne turned into a stream of light and shuttled through the void. While Di Shirtian was thinking, he was also seizing every moment to activate the Emperor's shocking world book. He channeled his true power into the four open demon meridians in his body that were unobstructed. It followed the small branches of the demon meridians to nourish his body. It allowed countless small meridians to extend into the flesh and blood of his body, forming a mysterious meridian diagram. At the same time, with every cycle, there would be a huge amount of desire power in the void surging into his body. It entered the rank 5 Black Lotus in the Demon Palace. Moreover, the Emperor True Power was also unwillingly beginning to attack the 5th Demon Meridian. This 5th Demon Meridian was the seeing of the 6 desires, which was also the eye. Everything had desires. In general, it was the 7 emotions and 6 desires, which encompassed all 13 desires. The 7 emotions: joy, anger, worry, longing, sorrow, fear, shock. The 6 desires: seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, feeling. Of the 6 desires, the seeing was naturally related to the eye. Since it was a desire to peep. Curiosity was a desire, and curiosity led to the desire to peep. This was normal among thousands of creatures. In fact, the 6 desires were related to the various organs and feelings of a creature. This was the nature of a creature. It was normal, and there was nothing wrong with it. But if one was too stubborn, it would lead to bad desires. For the 7 emotions and 6 desires, Tian was really worried about the 7 emotions and not the 6 desires. Even if one was addicted to the 6 desires, it would not cause one's consciousness to sink completely and be beyond redemption. But the 7 emotions were extremely scary. Each of them was an emotion in a creature's body. It was much harder to resist than the 6 desires. I have already formed the demon meridian. The only thing I can do now is to increase my cultivation level as quickly as possible. The 7 emotions demon meridian cannot be touched easily. I have to open the 6 desires demon meridian first. If my deduction of the Book of the Emperor's Shocking World is correct, the 6 desires can give birth to all kinds of magical powers. Tian kept using his true power to attack the demon meridian. He attacked the pure godly essence that filled the demon meridian. Every time he broke a little and refined the godly essence, his true power would increase by a lot. This was half of the godly essence in Chen Shi's body. It had been accumulated for tens of thousands of years. If he refined the godly essence in each demon meridian, his cultivation level would increase by more than 1,000 years. The reason why he didn't need to attack the 4th demon meridian was that Chen Shi had turned into an instant divine flower and entered the realm of desire to awaken Tian. The godly essence in that demon meridian had been slightly wasted. If possible, he would still choose to attack the demon meridian himself. During the process, he could nourish the demon meridian bit by bit and familiarize himself with the new desire power. He could also refine the godly essence and increase his cultivation level. It was killing 2 birds with 1 stone. In his mind, he was still deducing the Book of the Emperor's Shocking World. He used the godly eye to steal the sky and change the sun. In these years, he had memorized countless secret techniques. These techniques kept rolling in his mind. He extracted the essence of these techniques and combined them with the Book of the Emperor's Shocking World. Little by little, he perfected it. The Book of the Emperor's Shocking World had 13 levels, which meant 13 volumes. Starting from the first transformation of the Yao core, each transformation corresponded to a volume. Now that the Yao core had 4 transformations, he was cultivating the 4th volume. The key to the 4th volume was the domain. Once the domain was formed, all the levels would be unimpeded. Every demon meridian corresponded to a volume of technique. For example, the 4th volume was specifically used to cultivate the 4th demon meridian. And the true essence of the Book of the Emperor's Shocking World was the secret technique to condense the acupoints in each volume. It must be noted that the main demonic meridian was divided into many subsidiary demonic meridians. The intersection between the subsidiary demonic meridian and the main demonic meridian was the aperture acupoint. Although the number of subsidiary demonic meridians branching off from the main demonic meridian was innumerable, the aperture acupoints weren't very important to the cultivator. But the more acupoints there were, the wider the meridians could extend in the body. However, these were the most normal acupoints. As for the opening of acupoints, Tian had recently deduced by combining many demon clan techniques and the secret technique he had obtained from the stealing the sky and changing the sun. With the tenacity of the demon meridian, 9 acupoints could be opened in each of them. 13 demon meridian in the body was enough to open 117 acupoints. Tian called it the Emperor's true acupoint. 9 was the extreme number. It was already the limit to open 9 acupoints on each demon meridian. For example, the demon meridian formed by other techniques could be formed with 6 or 7 acupoints, which was already a top technique. While he was thinking, time flew by. In the blink of an eye, he had been traveling in the void on the soaring sky throne for 7 days. After crossing countless mountains and rivers, he finally returned to the southern barbarian. De Chertien's return naturally caused a huge sensation in the southern barbarian. Almost everywhere he went, there were pairs of blazing eyes staring at him. The news of destroying a first-class sect in the immortal cultivation world had long been spread to the southern barbarian. This kind of thing, which had almost never been done by a demon clan, spread. It immediately made the demons in the southern barbarian become fanatical. From the demons there was a trace of faith power converging towards De Chertien. When he met with Chen Shi, he naturally told him a brief overview of what happened in the Thousand Beasts sect, and then placed the White Tiger's mother in the Jade Pool. Husband, you mean, the Thousand Beasts sect used a vicious secret method to make Mother lose her mind, and all her mind is full of killing. What a vicious method. Humph. After listening to De Chertien's story, and seeing the White Tiger's sleeping appearance at the moment, a layer of frost appeared on Chen Shi's flawless face. A 7-colored halo flowed in his eyes, and a fierce look flashed. Since she really gave herself to De Chertien, she had been thinking for him wholeheartedly. She regarded De Chertien's family as her own. Xiao Bai was like this, and for the White Tiger, she regarded it as her mother. Seeing that situation, how could she not be angry in her heart? The Thousand Beasts sect definitely can't escape this debt. De Chertien's face surged with killing intent, but he still took a deep breath and temporarily suppressed this killing intent. He said, however, that day I was poked into the ground by that inexplicable finger that appeared out of nowhere, and by chance. He reached out and hugged Chen Shi in his arms, and slowly told him what happened in the fallen god abyss. To be continued. If you want to know what happened next, please go to www.chidian.com, support the author, support the original reading. Chapter 496. God Perishing Abyss? Treasure Basin and Money Tree? After hearing this, Chen Shi's delicate body, which was nestled in De Chertien's arms, trembled slightly. She said in surprise, God Perishing Abyss is one of the 9 forbidden places. Even the most powerful people don't dare to covet the rare treasures inside. I didn't expect that the human clan would make such a big move this time. They used the innate yin-yang dust formation to seal the entrance of the abyss. They want to use the power of the treasure basin to seize the treasures that flock to them. Chen Shi inherited the knowledge of the Heavenly Lady of 100 Flowers, so she knew far more than De Chertien. Just by listening, she already understood the purpose of the immortal cultivation world these years. She frowned slightly and said, Husband, what are you going to do? If the immortal cultivation world gets that amazing wealth, in a short time, countless powerful people will emerge from the human clan. Their strength will multiply, which will certainly be a considerable threat to the development of our southern barbarian lands. What's more, our demon city has not been built yet. Danger, absolute danger. With the nature of the human clan, once they found something that could threaten their status, the most direct way was to obliterate it, let alone the demon clan. In the past, they stepped on the heads of the demon clan to climb to the position of the protagonist of today's world. The hatred between the two clans could not be washed away even with all the water in the 3 rivers. Once the human clan's strength increased greatly, it was almost foreseeable that they would immediately target the rising demon clan. At that time, blood would flow like rivers, which was almost a foreseeable thing. The encirclement and suppression of the demon clan in the immortal cultivation world was bound to happen again. The consequences of the wealth being seized by the human clan were too serious. De Chertien had experienced a lifetime as a human, so he knew the temperament of the human clan the best. Naturally, he would not let it go. A meaningful look appeared at the corner of his mouth. What should we do? God-perishing abyss is one of the 9 forbidden places in the source world. Since it doesn't belong to any person or force, as long as they have the ability, they are qualified to have a share of it. Why should the human clan's major sects occupy it? Keep it a secret? Didn't they mean to keep it a secret and only let the cultivators in the immortal cultivation world know about it? They want to divide up the secret of the enormous treasure. I don't want to draw attention to myself. If it's just us demon clans joining in, we'll most likely become a thorn in the flesh in the eyes of those cultivators. They'll definitely spare some time to attack us first. Based on the countless years of accumulation in the purple gold mainland, there must be immortal-level powerhouses in every sect. Perhaps even the immortals and Buddhas from the heaven realm would enter the purple gold mainland. With that kind of strength, if we really become a target, we won't be able to get away with it. There is only one way. Let's muddy the waters. Deschertien's eyes flashed with wisdom. Indeed, at this moment, the major sects of the human tribe, together with the experts in the heaven realm, had planned for countless years and used countless treasures to set up the innate yin and yang dust formation to stabilize the God's Fall abyss. It was all for the scarlet treasure tide that occurred once every 3,000 years. At this moment, how could they just watch others eat the soup in front of them? If they wanted to gain benefits from it, they couldn't act rashly. The only way was to muddy the waters and fish in the muddy waters. That was the highest level of making a fortune in silence. Whether or not they could forge the 1,000-demon city as soon as possible depended on whether they could catch a big fish this time. After telling Chen Shi what he thought, Chen Shi couldn't help but smile slightly. He nodded from time to time. He interjected a few words, looking like a good wife. After a long time, after the discussion, Deschertien's hand appeared on Chen Shi's flat lower abdomen and gently stroked it. He leaned his head close to the crystal-like earrings and whispered, it's late, let's rest." Chen Shi's snow-white neck was instantly flushed with an alluring pink. She called out and was incomparably bashful. She buried her head in Sakra's chest and didn't raise her head. But she didn't refuse. When Deschertien saw this, his heart was burning. He didn't know why, but although it wasn't the first time they did this, Chen Shi always seemed quite shy about this matter. However, when such an expression fell into his eyes, the fire in his heart was ignited. He wasn't some abstinent monk. He naturally wanted to taste this kind of thing between husband and wife. The dual cultivation between a man and a woman was a natural law. Although he didn't think much when he created the Emperor shocking the world, later on, when he had Chen Shi, he immediately asked Ming to teach him the dual cultivation method of the Heaven and Earth Yin-Yang Great Compassion poem and fused it with his own cultivation method. When they dual cultivated, not only could it increase their true power, but it could also refine the impurities in their bodies. It was extremely magical. He smiled faintly. He gently picked up the perfect body in his arms and walked into the bedroom in the jade pool. On the second day, Shu De was summoned to the Lingshao King Hall. After a series of instructions, the information network that was spread out was completely activated. Information after information seemed to be unintentionally released. Rumors! A wave of rumors suddenly swept through the entire immortal cultivator world. Moreover, this wave of rumors, almost as soon as it started, could not be stopped. The content of the rumors almost made countless immortal cultivators completely crazy. At an incredible speed, in just 2 days, it quickly spread across the entire continent. No matter where you went, almost everyone was crazily spreading the contents of the rumors. As for where this rumor came from, almost no one cared. Chaos, if there was a word to describe the immortal cultivator world at this moment, it could only be summarized as chaos. It could even be said that it was crazy. What kind of place is the fallen god abyss? The 9 forbidden lands, have you heard of it? If not, you must have heard of the Tower of Babel, right? The Tower of Babel is one of the 9 forbidden lands. Do you know what is in the fallen god abyss? There are treasure basins and money trees there. Quick, quick, quick! Hurry up and inform the family. The 10,000 treasure red tide is coming. The fallen god abyss has been fixed. Those tribulation stage powerhouses want to eat all of it. They will take all the treasures away in one go. Hurry up and gather the masters and get ready to go to the fallen god abyss. If we are late, we might not even be able to drink the soup. My goodness, the 10,000 treasure red tide? There are as many treasures as the tide in the sea. Even people will be smashed to death. Smash my head. I am willing to be smashed to death by the treasures. Treasure basins, money trees. If you can get one, you won't have to worry about it for 10,000 years. Fallen god abyss, I am coming. Let's see if I don't bite off a piece of the money tree's skin. Hee, don't think that masters can monopolize the good things. The fallen god abyss doesn't belong to them. Everyone is qualified to go. The 10,000 treasure red tide belongs to whoever gets it. If I can get one, TSK, I will be a master in the future. I will also be a powerhouse. Crazy. The entire immortal cultivator world had gone crazy, especially those at the bottom of the immortal cultivator world. Some small sects were shocked by the sudden news and went crazy. This was originally a big secret kept in some big sections. It was something that had been planned for many years. When it was revealed, it was immediately like poking a hornet's nest. It caused an unimaginable tsunami. The immortal cultivator world was the most difficult place to keep a secret. It would have been fine if it hadn't been spread. But once the news spread, the 9 forbidden lands and the fallen god abyss were all dug up. Especially the fallen god abyss. The treasure basins and money trees inside immediately made countless cultivators go crazy. When they heard about the arrival of the 10,000 treasure craze, the endless treasures and the wave-like scene, who didn't yearn for it so much that they even drooled. At this time, not to mention tribulation stage powerhouses, even immortals couldn't restrain the desire in the hearts of countless cultivators. What did it mean? It meant that as long as one was lucky in the 10,000 treasure red tide, they would have a chance to get a rare treasure. At that time, it would be like a carp leaping over the dragon's gate. Even the big sects couldn't suppress such a thing. Countless people were rubbing their hands and preparing to go to the fallen god abyss. Although Tion didn't know where the specific entrance to the fallen god abyss was, he didn't need to know at all. As long as the news spread, countless people would immediately search for it. Sure enough, in less than 9 days, some cultivators found some clues. After searching, they finally found out that the entrance wasn't on land, but on the sea. It was on an island in the East Sea. The island was the size of a small continent, but it didn't have a name. Such an island was too common on the purple gold continent. However, some busybodies gave the island a name, Scarlet Tide Island. Countless cultivators flocked there. The puddle of water in the Godfall abyss had been thoroughly stirred up. Tion sat upright in the southern barbarian lands. All kinds of news gathered in a steady stream from all directions. With the information network set up by Big Rat, all kinds of movements in the immortal cultivator world were gathered, organized, and sent to him. All the movements at this moment fell into his eyes without missing anything. If you want to know the future, please go to www.chidian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author. Support the original reading. Chapter 497. The Immortal Brew Pavilion opened the way with spirit wines. Monkey wine, dark ice jade fire wine, 1,000 days drunk immortal wine, returning essence wine, 1,000 fruits and herbs wine, and the pavilion's spirit wine, heart-cleansing Bodhi wine. With these spirit wines placed in the pavilion, and with a demon clan member who was equivalent to a nascent soul cultivator in the immortal cultivation world, it naturally gained a firm foothold in the immortal cultivation world. One must know that in this world, spirit wine was a rare treasure. If one wanted to brew it without a unique wine recipe, it was almost impossible to brew it. A large sect might have some people who knew how to brew it, but the various spirit herbs were hard to find. Secondly, there were many details to pay attention to during the brewing process, especially the wine recipe. This made spirit wine the rarest treasure in the world. Moreover, most of the spirit wines in the immortal cultivation world were actually brewed with spirit grains. Although the wine had spirit energy, it lacked the most precious special ability of spirit wine. It couldn't even enter the standard grade. At most, it could only nourish the true essence. Real spirit wine had all kinds of magical and special abilities. For example, the monkey wine could increase one's cultivation, the dark ice jade fire wine could temper the body, and the 1,000 days drunk immortal wine could let one enjoy the intoxicating feeling of floating like an immortal. In terms of enjoyment, it was second to none. Returning essence wine could restore the true essence that had been consumed, and 1,000 fruits and herbs wine could nourish the meridians and promote cultivation. Heart-cleansing Bodhi wine could even eliminate inner demons. Which one wasn't incomparably magical? Since the opening of the Immortal Brew Pavilion, it naturally caused quite a stir in the immortal cultivation world. However, the Immortal Brew Pavilion spread to the entire immortal cultivation world almost overnight. Just this point alone made countless people who wanted to scheme against it withdraw their hand. Especially the pavilion master of each immortal brew pavilion, who had the Tao of a nascent soul cultivator. 1 or 2 shops might be fine, but to open up 1,000,000 shops in the immortal cultivation world, covering most of the areas, and all of them were guarded by nascent soul cultivators, then how big was the power behind the immortal brew pavilion? That was 1,000,000 nascent soul cultivators. Furthermore, he was only the pavilion master. How powerful would the force behind the scenes be? This kind of invisible deterrence made many forces with ulterior motives shrink back in fear. They didn't dare to take half a step forward. In addition to the abundant supply of spirit wine, it made the immortal cultivation world accept the existence of the Immortal Brew Pavilion. No matter who it was, they had to give face to the Immortal Brew Pavilion, and the mirage illusory jade. Covering chi, even immortals wouldn't be able to detect the slightest abnormality. No one's line race demon clan. In this way, all kinds of information would naturally be collected like a tide. Underground, using the rat clan's innate ability to drill, they opened up secret underground transmission tunnels. Underground, the Mouse Clan was the fastest rat clan. Imprinting all kinds of information into the Jade Talisman and transmitting it from underground, it was practically undetectable. Spirit wine was concealment. Almost every day, there would be a huge amount of information coming from all directions to the intelligence department of Rat University. Books, records, and books. Record. What was presented in front of Sakura was the most important and concise information that had been sorted out. Good. These days, Sakura and Chun she had been dual cultivating whenever they had time. Their faces were refreshed, and a trace of invisible majestic aura leaked out from between their brows. They sat neatly on the numinous sky palace, holding a jade scroll in their hands. Reading the contents of the scroll, they praised, Scarlet Tide Island, I didn't expect that the entrance would be on the East Sea. If I didn't stir up this pool of clear water, I don't know how long it would take me to find it out. This water is muddy. It's easy to fish in muddy water. Shirtian's eyes flashed with wisdom. He had wisdom, and he was much smarter than ordinary people. However, since he came to this world, he had a deep understanding that having wisdom was a good thing. But with wisdom, even if you were a genius, what could you do? Wisdom without strength was just stupidity. It was like an armchair strategist. A clown's trick. It was a joke. Therefore, even if he had thousands of schemes in his heart, Shirtian would not implement them. He would rather use his hands and saber to cut down the obstacles in front of him. Even if he used them, He would only use some small tricks to protect himself. Wisdom needed to be supported by absolute strength. Today, he dared to use his means to throw the entire world into chaos. He disrupted the plan that the upper echelons of the world of immortal cultivators had set up for thousands of years. He included the entire world of immortal cultivators and even the myriad worlds in his calculations. He even played them in the palm of his hand. What did he rely on? He relied on the strength he had gained today. Behind him, there were millions of demons who had condensed their inner cores and tens of millions of demons supporting him. The existence of the demon city had strength comparable to an immortal. This strength gave him enough capital to use all kinds of tricks to plan the overall situation, to gain benefits for himself. Thinking about it, if he didn't have these as a backing, even if the rumors were released today, it would just be an idiotic move that harmed others without benefiting himself. Now it was different. Now he was the one playing chess. He had the ability to get the benefits he wanted in this game of chess. This was the importance of strength. Pa! Closing the jade book, D. Shirtion looked up at the kneeling Rat Big and ordered in a deep voice, "Rat Deputy Demon Envoy, immediately send someone to bring this king's jade talisman to the area where the 8 demon kings are and personally hand the jade talisman to them. At the same time, open the valley door and prepare to welcome the other brothers of the demon clan." "Yes, King." Rat Big took the jade talisman and 8 invitations from the Green Phoenix sword attendant and respectfully agreed. Those were the invitations that D. Shirtion invited the 8 demon kings to come to the southern wilderness. The cake in the fallen god abyss was so big that even D. Shirtion felt that he couldn't eat it alone. It was better to sell a favor and strengthen the entire demon clan. The benefits in the future would be unimaginable. He could also use this gathering to establish his position in the demon clan in one fell swoop. He also wanted to use this opportunity to make the myriad demon valley a holy land that everyone in the demon clan yearned for. He also wanted to spread the demon coins that he made to the entire demon clan. Establish his position. Who? Subordinate is here. In the Lingshao Palace, most of D. Shirtion's capable subordinates were almost all present. They were lined up on both sides in order. At this moment, hearing the call, who immediately stood up. "You are in charge of the affairs in the valley. The matter of the demon city can't be too publicized for the time being. Once the demons arrive, you are responsible for receiving them." All kinds of facilities and buildings in the valley were completed in the shortest time. Open the Rare Treasure Pavilion, Immortal Brew Pavilion, and the Hidden Scriptures Pavilion. Categorize the magic tools, magic weapons, and cultivation methods seized from the Thousand Beasts sect and put them all into the 3 pavilions. Open the exchange of demon coins and demon cards. This time, this king wants to promote the demon coins to the entire demon clan. There can't be any mistakes, D. Shirtion said with a dignified expression. Who was the wise man in the Fox clan? He was an old fox who had lived for thousands of years. His wisdom could be said to be at the peak of perfection. Now, he had already set his position and wholeheartedly assisted D. Shirtion. He was even more devoted to the construction of the demon city. In him, who saw the prosperity of the Fox clan and the hope of the rise of the demon clan. Yes, King. Who promised, all kinds of buildings in the valley have been completed. All of them are made of divine crystals, plus other precious materials. The wealth obtained from the Thousand Beasts sect has been completed. In the future, if we move out of the southern wilderness, we can relocate them to the demon city. All kinds of treasures have also been placed in them. The reserve of demon coins is sufficient. It is enough to deal with any situation. In his mouth there was a clear and orderly way. Before the construction, he had already envisioned the future. With this vision, he was already qualified to be in charge of the construction of the myriad demon valley and the demon city. Good. After listening, D. Shirtion nodded his head in approval. Then, he looked at Bai Yu and said, Bai Yu, once the demons arrive, there will definitely be chaos. At that time, your demon supervisor guards will come in handy. Yes. Bai Yu spoke very little, but every word was as steady and firm as a mountain. In his eyes, there was a sharp light flickering. At this moment, with the help of the Linglong Treasure Pagoda, his cultivation had stepped into the second transformation of the demon core, and he had become an 8th-grade demon general. Then, he gave some instructions. It lasted for 2 hours before the court was dismissed. Hu and the others began to arrange their own task. Whether it was in the Linglong Treasure Pagoda or the Myriad Demon Valley, they all began to operate at high speed. Rat Big sent his subordinates to send the invitations underground to the areas of the 8 demon kings. This kind of transmission speed was very fast. It only took a day to reach the destination. Not to mention that Di Shirtian was trying his best to stir up the water in front of him, causing the entire immortal cultivation world to be in turmoil. Even the heaven realm above was alarmed. Perhaps even the demon realm, which had not appeared in the world for countless years, was alarmed. In short, at this moment, there were no secrets about the God's Fall abyss. The arrival of the 10,000 treasures Crimson Tide completely ignited the desire in everyone's heart. In a restaurant in a immortal cultivation city, 3 cultivators sat in a private room. The table in front of them was full of wine and dishes. The wine was the monkey wine bought from the immortal wine pavilion. Behind them, there were 2 young men standing. If Di Shirtian was here at this moment, he would find that all the people here were acquaintances. The 3 people sitting were Shengong Hu, Qin Yuan, and Lan Yu, who had the reputation of the 3 pests in the heaven realm. These 3 scourges were feared by everyone. Behind them, weren't they Shui Wuhan and Wu Wudi, who had a little friendship with Di Shirtian in the past? Of the 2 of them, one stood behind Lan Yu, and the other stood behind Qin Yuan. There was a hint of respect in his expression. At this moment, even the previous laughter on the faces of the 3 of them had disappeared. Their expressions were slightly dignified. Good fellow, those old farts above must know about the God's Fall abyss, and most likely participated in it. In the past, I only calculated the heavenly secret, and the heavenly secret only showed an inexplicable prediction of return to the origin. I think I may have guessed what that means. Shengong, whose mouth pulled a meaningful smile. If you want to know what happened next, please go to www.chidian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author, support the original reading. Chapter 498. Return to the origin? Shengong, don't tell me that means the heaven realm will return to the origin in the future. Lan Yu's eyes flashed with a touch of surprise as she stared at Shengong. Not the heaven realm, but the entire universe. Everything is included in it. Shengong said mysteriously. I don't know if you've heard of it, but there was a rumor in ancient times. No matter where it is, according to the time of the origin continent, there will be an annihilation tide in the chaos every 9 yuans. The tide this time will sweep across all world. The wine cup in Qin Yuan's hand couldn't help but tremble slightly, and a drop of amber-colored wine actually spilled out from the cup. It was obvious that unprecedented tempestuous waves had surely surged within his heart. You're saying that the annihilation tide, that occurs every 9 yuans, is coming. No wonder the entire purple-gold continent is plotting against the fallen god Abyss. They probably want to obtain endless treasures to strengthen their forces as much as possible and stabilize their positions. They want to suppress the returning 100 races like the ancient Yao clan. Qin Yuan said with a strange smile. He looked calm, but his heart was not calm. In the future world, the origin continent will be the most exciting stage. Interesting, very interesting. With the return of the 100 races, maybe the prosperity of the ancient times will really happen. The more lively, the more fun it is. I'm already tired of the Heaven Realm and want to come to the Origin Continent to play. Lan Yu had a faint smile on her face. Forget it, the Annihilation Tide won't affect us. However, the Million Treasure Crimson Tide in the Fallen God Abyss is a good opportunity. How can we miss out on such a lively event? Shengong, who thought for a moment and also felt that the Annihilation Tide was too far away for the current situation. He pulled the topic back to the Fallen God Abyss. That's right. The God's Fall Abyss has always been erratic, wandering in the void. Although the entrances are all over the universe, unfortunately, those entrances are constantly changing with the abyss. It's not easy to find them. Even if you enter TSK, the soldiers in the abyss are not fun to play with. The treasures in the treasure bowl and the money tree are things that can't be touched. This Million Treasure Crimson Tide is really a good opportunity. Blue Rain let out a strange laugh. His eyes flickered with an indescribable light as they spun around. It was as if all sorts of schemes flashed through his mind. Although I don't know who is trying to muddy the waters, it's still beneficial to us. We don't have any other abilities, but fishing in troubled waters isn't a problem. Shengong's smile also became brighter. Maybe we can get a few world source seeds then. Hee hee. Shengong and the other two looked at each other and laughed strangely. When Shui Wuhan and Wu Wudi saw this, they couldn't help but look at each other. They saw a trace of helplessness in each other's eyes. In the South Pole, the head of the 8 Demon Kings, the Rock Demon King, who was dressed like a scholar, held an invitation in his hand. He looked at the invitation and didn't speak for a long time. After a long time, he put it down and stood in the snow. He looked up at the sky and took a deep breath. He muttered, "So fast, this cultivation speed is really incredible. 4th Revolution Yao Core. Ancient Yao King Realm. In just a few short years, how did he cultivate? Monster King of Heaven's Punishment, annihilating a first-rate sect. His battle prowess is far beyond his realm." Even though the Rock Monster King had lived for thousands of years, he was still only at the 6th transformation. He'd only broken through after the Sky Lightning platform had been created and he'd benefited from the Violet Lightning Rain. This was also because of his own accumulation. But Di Shirtian's cultivation was like drinking water. In just a few short years, he'd broken through from the 2nd transformation all the way to the 4th. 2 breakthroughs in a row. It was true that comparing monsters would only infuriate monsters. A subordinate who delivered the invitation has condensed a monster core. Southern Barbarian Di Shirtian, God's Fall Abyss, Myriad Treasures Crimson Tide. It seems that I really have to go and take a look this time. The Rock Demon King muttered to himself. After pondering for a while, he suddenly ordered, "Tell all the monsters in the South Pole to prepare. We'll set off for Southern Barbarian in 3 days." Yes. Not far away, a resounding response sounded. Di Shirtian's invitation. Interesting, I've never seen his Southern Barbarian Myriad Demon Valley before. TSK. Does God's Fall Abyss have something to do with him? I must go and take a look. In a blood-colored lake, a giant flood dragon laughed strangely and wriggled a few times, then ordered its subordinates to prepare for the trip. Qingqiu Mountain. Su Tianxiang, by who, was wearing a palace dress and holding an invitation in her hand. She couldn't help but wrinkle her perfect nose and snorted in dissatisfaction. This damn tiger. He clearly remembered the 16-year Qingqiu Mountain Pact. Now that the 16-year period is almost up, not only did he not come, but he even wants me to go to Southern Barbarian. Who do you think I am? Her expression was full of dissatisfaction, and her eyes flashed with a cunning light. I heard that he was the king of Southern Barbarian and made Chen she the demon empress. Chen she still has his bloodline in his body. No, such an excellent powerhouse like him must not be easily let go. And the hidden danger in my body. I won't let you go when I go to Southern Barbarian this time. in by whose heart there seemed to be something that was difficult to say. Although she didn't want to admit it, by who herself knew very well that although she had never said it out loud, she had an indescribable good impression of De Chertion in her heart. Especially when she witnessed with her own eyes how De Chertion experienced all kinds of dangers step by step from an ordinary black tiger to reach where he was today. A touch of affection had long begun to grow in the bottom of her heart. Otherwise, when she met the witch Ding Dang in the Tongtian Tower back then, she wouldn't have behaved like that and even called herself his wife without hesitation. It could be said that she didn't even care about her reputation. I'd like to see what has become of Southern Barbarian now. Putting down the invitation, she also began to instruct the clansmen in Qingqiu. Qingqiu was the ancestral land of the Fox clan and was almost the birthplace of the Fox clan. Almost all kinds of Fox clan lived here. Under the reign of purple thunder from the heavenly thunder tower, most of the foxes, who were known for their intelligence, could transform. De Chertion's invitation was sent to the hands of the 8 demon kings. Only the demon kings knew the contents of the invitation. As for what was written, it was difficult for outsiders to figure out. However, almost unanimously, they ordered their subordinates to start preparing at the fastest speed. After packing up their luggage, they quickly went to the Southern Barbarian in a hidden way. For a time, the small Southern Barbarian became the gathering place of the demon clan. In the immortal cultivation world, almost all the cultivators' eyes were on the Scarlet Tide Island in the East Sea. A huge group of cultivators swarmed over, completely disrupting the original formation of those powerhouses. Facing the entire immortal cultivation world, those powerhouses could only bitterly swallow this bitter fruit. In their hearts, they hated the person who leaked the news. They couldn't wait to eat his flesh and drink his blood. The plan that had been planned for thousands of years was known to everyone in a day. All their efforts were made for others. It would be strange if they could swallow this resentment. Others need to enter the fallen abyss through the Scarlet Tide Island, but I don't. You want to find me? Dream on. When I get boundless benefits and build the demon city, even if they know that I leaked the news, what can they do to me? De Chertion naturally knew from the intelligence that at this moment, those big sects in the immortal cultivation world were frantically searching for the person who spread the rumors. Unfortunately, there was no way to find him now. Not a single clue was left. It was a joke for him to come to the Southern Barbarian. However, this matter should be carefully planned. It is not easy to get benefits from the thousands treasure red tide. De Chertion knew that the other 8 demon kings had begun to move to the Southern Barbarian. However, according to the speed, it would take at least half a month to gradually begin to arrive at the Southern Barbarian. But he had a plan in mind. During this period of time, he had learned a lot about the fallen god Abyss. Naturally, he knew that this thousands treasure red tide was definitely not dedicated to delivering treasures to people. Madman D, although you've stirred up the water this time, it's not easy to get benefits from the myriad treasure Scarlet Tide. If you're not careful, all of your Southern Barbarian little demons will be buried in the abyss. The red tide and tsunami caused by infinite treasures are not a joke. Ming said after a long silence. For example, there was a tsunami on the sea in the secular world. When the tsunami came, the white waves rose to the sky, rolling up huge waves of thousands of feet high. In front of the tsunami, no matter if it was a mortal or a ship, they would be easily crushed into powder. The destructive power of nature was almost irresistible. In front of the tsunami, the people of the secular world were like ants, unable to resist. And this thousands treasure red tide was formed by the convergence of infinite treasures, led by the treasure bowl. The scene of the red tide was like a tsunami in the secular world. However, it was not seawater, but infinite treasures. Just the seawater had such power, so all of them were treasures. If one were to stand in front of such a red tide, they would be attacked by countless magical treasures on the spot. rolling over and crushing over, not even dregs would be left behind. It was the same as being hit by countless magical treasures. If it was just one wave, it would be fine, but behind it was a surging red tide. That scene was terrifying. It was said that there was once an ancient giant who didn't believe in heresy and stood in front of the crimson tide. He wanted to face it head-on. After being crushed by the crimson tide, there was nothing left of him. As for whether he was dead or alive, no one knew. Anyway, no one had seen him again. It's foolish to resist the red tide head-on. Going with the flow and following the flow is the way of the king. Ever since Tion knew about the red tide, he had already come up with a plan after countless deductions in his mind. If you want to know what will happen next, please go to www.chidian.com and read more chapters. Support the author, support the original reading. Chapter 499. In the face of the overwhelming crimson tide, if they were to face it head-on, even the ancient giants would be obliterated to the point where even their spirit would be annihilated. After all, among the treasures that were whizzing over and being drawn over by the treasure basin, who knew how many of them would cause great harm to the body, and even more how many of them would weaken the spirit? In front of the terrible torrent, even the indestructible body or indestructible divine soul of a venerable would be obliterated. The crimson tide was like a big mill that would grind everything into powder. Most of the ancient giants, such as cultivators, would cultivate the indestructible primordial spirit, while martial artists would cultivate the indestructible body. Only when one reached the level of a peerless master could he cultivate the indestructible body and indestructible primordial spirit at the same time. Both the physical body and primordial spirit would be indestructible. At that time, it could be said that there were no flaws in the body. That was why they were called peerless masters, the peak existence of heaven and earth. However, the creation of heaven and earth was magical. No one could guarantee that there was no supreme treasure in the world that could obliterate the indestructible body and divine soul. It just so happened that the innate spirit treasure was a supreme treasure that could cause unignorable damage to peerless masters. Peerless masters were difficult to obliterate, but they were not indestructible. If a peerless master wanted to stop the crimson tide of treasures, he would not be able to do so. It was a kind of heavenly force, an unstoppable tide. Generally speaking, it was not easy to find enough benefits in the crimson tide. The most frightening thing was that when the crimson tide came, all the soldier souls in the God's Fall abyss would wake up. The awakening of these soldier spirits was to intercept the countless broken divine weapons and magical treasures contained in the crimson tide. These were the existences that nurtured the soldier spirit. For the soldier spirits, these broken divine weapons and magical treasures were like family to them. They had to be guided back, separated from the crimson tide. If one wanted to seize the treasures in the crimson tide, one would inevitably encounter the soldier souls. If there was a conflict, it would be a great danger. That was why for countless years, no one dared to have any ideas about the crimson tide of treasures. Haha, crazy emperor, if you can really get some benefits this time, it will be endless for you in the future. If you don't have a solution, I have a temporary solution. Ming was also extremely enthusiastic about this matter. Since she had spoken now, it was clear that she had thought about this matter for a long time. What method? Tion asked without any surprise. In ancient times, there was a very mysterious formation called the heaven-searching earth treasure capturing formation. Nether said excitedly, "This formation is extremely miraculous. Once it's set up, you just have to activate it and you'll be able to capture any ownerless or ownerless treasures within a radius of 1,000,000 miles around the formation. However, there was a flaw. Every time it was activated, it could only capture one treasure. It was fine if it was ownerless, but if it was, unless one's strength was about the same as the owner's, it would also be ineffective, and there was even the possibility of a backlash. If there's really no other way, this array formation can still help you get some benefits. Although this array formation had a huge flaw, it made sense. If he could suddenly capture a treasure or a world source seed, TSK, he would have struck it rich. With the source of life in his body, he could immediately open up an inner world. This array formation is quite interesting. Deschertien's eyes flickered a few times. After pondering for a moment, he said this. However, he did not immediately ask Ming about the method of setting up the formation. Instead, he turned around and returned to the Linglong Treasure Pagoda. He told Hu and the others that he was going to cultivate in seclusion for a period of time. He would naturally come out of seclusion in half a month. As for the other matters, he would leave them to his subordinates. He entered the third heaven of the Linglong Treasure Pagoda alone. The first heaven could reverse time by 10 times, the second heaven could reverse time by 50 times, and the third heaven could reverse time by 100 times. Half a month in the outside world was equivalent to 50 months in the third heaven. It was a total of 4 years. The Linglong Treasure Pagoda's ability to reverse time was heaven-defying. It could turn 1 day into 100 days. It was precisely because of this that Deschertien was able to increase his cultivation level while developing his forces. With the appearance of a large number of demons with inner cores, the demon city's foundation had been moved to the second heaven. The first heaven was empty and was given to the other demons to cultivate. The Tao of the Emperor. Other than myself, all are subordinate. Heaven and earth are vast, and only I am supreme. I control life and death. Those who obey me will prosper. Those who oppose me will perish. As soon as Deschertien entered the third heaven, he began to cultivate. His body absorbed the energy of heaven and earth, and the power of desire. In his mind, he was constantly deducing his own technique. There were 3,000 Daos, and all of them could be connected. From the moment he created the Imperial World Shocking Book, it meant that he had completely embarked on the Tao of the Emperor. The Imperial World Shocking Book could be considered a peerless book on the Tao of the Emperor. Because it was created by him, many things were incomplete. However, there were also great benefits. This technique was created completely according to him. It was the most suitable technique for him, and could be constantly deduced as he cultivated, adding in all sorts of wondrous ideas. Perfecting the Imperial World Shocking Book. There was no room to change other techniques, but this book had the possibility of being continuously modified. Until now, Deschertien was still perfecting and deducing. The Imperial World Shocking Book was now many times more complete than it had been at the beginning. It included the method of forming demon veins, the method of opening the Imperial True Acupoint, the method of cultivating the Imperial Chi of the Imperial Tyrant Heart Mantra, the ultimate battle techniques of the Imperial Way of the Emperor. Some had been perfected, and some were in the process of being perfected. At this moment, Deschertien was deducing the unique divine light technique of the Imperial World Shocking Book, and the mystique that was derived from the technique. He was even deducing a set of seals. Divine light, as long as one cultivated to the Ascension Realm or the Ancient Demon King Realm and formed a territory, could naturally derive a mystique. However, at the beginning, no matter who it was, the divine light would be the same. There was not much difference, unless there was a change in the technique, such as absorbing some unique evil chi in the world and condensing it. For example, there was a rainbow transformation art. This was also a type of divine light, and it was one of the best. Its speed was inconceivably fast, and with a single leap, it could transform into a rainbow and travel hundreds of thousands of kilometers. This divine light absorbed the dark yang evil chi of the golden crow from the sun. There were all sorts of evil chi in the world. With a special method, it could form a unique divine light. To cultivate the Tao of the Emperor, the divine light naturally had to absorb the imperial chi. There were dragon veins in the world, and those who could obtain dragon veins could be called emperors in the mortal world. There was also evil chi in dragon veins called true dragon evil chi. If I want to condense the imperial divine light, the evil chi in ordinary dragon veins would not be enough. Moreover, I am extracting the imperial chi in dragon veins. If I want to find it, I have to find a supreme dragon cave where 9 dragons gather. Tion deduced for a long time, referring to the condensation method of countless divine lights in his mind. In the end, he made a preliminary deduction of the imperial divine light. First of all, the evil chi needed was rare in the world, and it had to be a supreme dragon cave where 9 dragons gathered. This was not urgent. With the intelligence network now spread across half of the immortal cultivation world, if he wanted to find such a supreme dragon cave, there should be a chance to find it. When I master the 6 desires, I can derive a mystique. When I completely master the 4th volume, my stomach may be able to obtain the great stomach tolerance mystique. There is also the Tao of the Imperial Way, devourer of the Taotai. I can also understand it. When I master the 5th volume, I should be able to cultivate the heavenly eye mystique. He secretly deduced and integrated the essence of various cultivation techniques. In his mind, there was a strange golden book filled with a noble aura that kept circling. Countless mysterious demon words were integrated into this book of imperial shock. It actually formed a book in his body. It was very mysterious. In terms of weapons, I have the Tiger Soul and the Imperial Way of the Imperial Emperor. Unparalleled in the world. However, in addition to weapons, I should also create a battle technique for hand-to-hand combat. In the future, when I leave the saber, I will have a way to deal with the enemy. He thought about it again. Indeed, in terms of battle skills, other than the saber technique, there were not many that could be praised. This was clearly a little unorthodox. This would not do. With the Tiger Soul in hand, once the Tiger Soul was unleashed, it would be a life and death situation. It would not end until one of them was dead. He could not throw away the advantage of his monster body just because of this. Using his demon body to fight could also temper his physical body. What kind of battle technique should I cultivate? Fist? Palm? Finger? The authority of the Imperial Emperor lies in the Imperial Seal. Once the Imperial Seal falls, it is as if I am there. The Imperial Seal is the seal. Palm is the seal. Fist is the seal. Finger is the seal. The Imperial Way of the Imperial Emperor is born from the 7 emotions and 6 desires. Every one of them is a peak battle technique. I am afraid that I will not be able to create a battle technique that surpasses them. In that case, I might as well turn the saber into a seal. Tion, who was sitting cross-legged on the ground, suddenly opened his closed eyes. 2 rays of burning light shot out. He suddenly stood up and waved his hand in front of him. Using his palm as a saber, he waved it out. The overbearing saber chi burst out from the edge of his palm, drawing a saber mark in front of his body. The saber chi spread everywhere. After the saber was waved out, he immediately used the 8 desolation steps and practiced the saber technique. However, within the saber technique, there were also palm technique. Slowly, no matter if it was a palm, a fist, a finger, or even a saber technique, he willed it freely. In the 3rd heaven, he practiced without any scruples. Outside his body, there were all kinds of saber chi and palm wind. As his body moved, within a radius of 100 feet, he was everywhere. Slowly, every strike he made had an imposing aura that was as heavy as a mountain. He wanted to reverse the saber technique into a seal technique. The death of the celestial and devil was reversed into the celestial and devil seal. The imperial wrath was reversed into the imperial seal. Even the devourer of the Taotai, which was being deduced, was reversed into the Taotai seal. After the imperial way of the imperial emperor, he added another battle technique called the imperial seal. Without sleep or rest, he continued for a full 3 years. Imperial seal of the imperial emperor, celestial and devil seal. Suddenly, Tion, who was moving quickly, suddenly paused. With a light shout, his right hand quickly moved in front of him. In an instant, countless seals flashed by, leaving behind countless afterimages. To be continued. If you want to know what happened next, please go to www.chidian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author, support the original reading. Chapter 500. Boom, boom, boom. The void shook violently as the power of desire gathered like a tide and gathered in his hand. As the seal moved, the power of desire suddenly spread out. Every strand of it turned into a demonic god. These demonic gods were all making different kinds of seals. With a loud rumble, it condensed in the hands of the Sakra as a simple and unadorned seal appeared in his hands. On the seal, countless figures of gods and devils were constantly changing. Every time it changed, the will of death on the ancient seal would surge even higher, spreading out in all directions. Everything in the world would be invaded by this will of death. Rumble! Tion sent out a seal toward a mountain a few hundred feet away. The godly demon seal immediately flew out of his hand and expanded in the wind. In the blink of an eye, it turned into a giant ancient seal that was hundreds of feet wide. The seal landed on the mountain peak, and with a bang, the entire mountain peak was smashed into dust. Endless death intent spread out, and the surrounding flowers and trees instantly lost their vitality. Their auras were replaced by the death intent. They were withering at a speed visible to the naked eye. They were withering in the endless will of death. Their hearts were dead and their souls were gone. Good, good, good. In 3 years, I have understood the key to reversing the saber art into the seal art. I have infused my mind into the imperial seal. Not only is the attack unparalleled, but the artistic conception can destroy everything. This set of seal art will not be inferior to the saber art. From now on, there will be one more battle skill in the Book of the Shocking Emperor. Tion saw the power of the demonic god seal, and could not help but nod in satisfaction. Fortunately, it was only the saber art of the extreme emperor's way that was transformed into the seal art. He had already understood the artistic conception. He only needed to reverse the saber art into the seal art. Otherwise, he would not be able to succeed in such a short time. At this moment, there was the saber art for weapons and the seal art for hand-to-hand combat. These two battle skills were enough to deal with any unforeseen circumstances. With a wave of his hand, he scanned his surroundings. Suddenly, he raised his head and looked up into the sky. With a thought, a stairway to heaven appeared in front of him. At the end of the stairway there was a door to the pagoda. The door of the pagoda was covered with countless mysterious patterns, and it was tightly shut. That was the path to the fourth heaven. Now that I've reached the fourth transformation realm of the ancient demon king, I'm as strong as an earth immortal. My body is strong and I'm protected by the eye of heavenly punishment. Watch me blast open the door to the fourth layer of heaven. Indra raised his eyebrows. His eyes shot out a divine light that was several feet long. His body trembled, and the aura that he had been restraining spread out like a tide, shrouding his entire body, making him look incomparably tall. In an instant, everything around him seemed to be under his control. Bang! He stepped on the staircase with steady step. The staircase had 9 steps and was as heavy as a mountain. A majestic pressure pressed down on his body. His feet couldn't help but sink a bit. He climbed up the peak and pushed open the pagoda door. I want to step into the fourth heaven. The expression on Tion's face was incomparably resolute, carrying a kind of determination that would not give up until he achieved his goal. This time, he must ascend to the fourth layer of heaven. It was not confidence but necessity. Back then, in the Heavenly Monster secret realm, Heavenly Monster ZU once said that everything in the secret realm would be sealed and suppressed in the Linglong treasure pagoda. I can only obtain the corresponding treasures when my strength reaches a certain level. In the first layer of heaven, I obtained tens of thousands of demon clans cultivation method. Although there's nothing in the second layer of heaven, I can subdue all the demons in the secret realm in the third layer of heaven. There are millions of transformed demons with inner cores. These are important in the secret realm, but there are still a few treasures that have not appeared. Back then, there was the Spider Lily Island with countless heavenly materials and earthly treasures, the entire Huangquan Sacred River, the heavenly Yinyang Bridge, and the last thing that Zhua mentioned, there were 2 heavenly demons of the demon clan suppressed in the secret realm. One is called Ancestor Tian Silkworm, and the other is Old Monster Huangquan. If I have the chance in the future, I'll take them for my own use. If I can get the heavenly Yinyang Bridge, with its ability to suppress everything, I can suppress the Crimson Tide. Only then can I obtain the greatest benefit. Today, I must enter the 4th layer of heaven. Countless thoughts flashed through Di Shirtian's eyes. He dared to have designs on the million treasures Crimson Tide, because he could get the heavenly Yinyang Bridge. With the heavenly Yinyang Bridge's ability to suppress a part of the world, he could cross the Crimson Tide, just like how it crossed the Huangquan Sacred River. He could cross the million treasures Crimson Tide and treat it as a raging river. Since it was impossible to resist the raging river from the front, blocking it would only result in being smashed to pieces. Then I'll build a bridge over the river. Under the bridge is water. I'll stand on the bridge and fish for the moon in the water. There are treasures under the bridge. I'm not afraid of not being able to fish for the moon. Long ago, he had carefully deduced that all the treasures in the secret realm were in the Linglong Treasure Pagoda. The heavenly Yinyang Bridge and the Huangquan Sacred River were most likely in the 4th or 5th layer of heaven. No matter which one it was, it had boundless benefits for him. If it was the Huangquan Sacred River, after he got it, he could merge it with the sacred river in the divine eye of heaven's punishment, which would immediately make the Huangquan inside complete. The power of the divine eye of heaven's punishment would be greatly increased, and the first innate divine restriction in the divine eye would be completed on the spot. Maybe it would make the divine eye evolve again and give birth to the second innate divine restriction. At that time, maybe the power of the divine punishment would be able to deal with the ferocity of the million treasures Crimson Tide. Today, no one can stop me. Sakura took a deep breath. His body shook as he straightened his back. An arrogant aura whizzed out, causing the surrounding air to tremble violently. It was as if this movement had shaken the mountain that was pressing down on his shoulders. There was a strange rumbling sound, and there was a faint pressure above his head. He lifted his foot and stepped forward. When he took the second step, a pressure 10 times stronger than before rushed toward him. With a bang, it was like a train crashing toward him, trying to knock him down the stairway. Humph! No matter how much you trample on me, I will remain as immovable as a mountain. Di Shirtian ran his cultivation method, and the Huangji true force filled his whole body. His feet stared at the stairway, and the roaring pressure bombarded his body. Immediately, there was a roar in front of him, and countless huge forces pressed on his body. Di Shirtian stood proudly, and his black robe exploded on the spot, revealing a perfect body. On his body, the muscles were undulating like dragons. On his skin, there was a layer of dense treasure light. Under the continuous tempering, the demon body had begun to transform into a treasure body. At the back of his head, his black hair fluttered wildly like a demon god. Bang, bang, bang! He lifted his foot, took 3 steps forward in a domineering manner, and went up to the 5th stairway. The vast pressure increased exponentially, and in the blink of an eye, it pressed down on him like an avalanche. His muscles trembled violently, and on his body blue veins popped out. Under the pressure, he was almost about to break. There was a terrible sound coming from his bones, as if they could not withstand the endless pressure and were about to break under the pressure. Ha! he roared, and a purple-gold light flashed on his face. Suddenly, the purple-gold mask that could cover half of his face appeared on his face. Suddenly, his aura increased by no less than 10 times, and in the blink of an eye, he blocked all the pressure outside his body. The Huangji mask could increase one's cultivation level. After wearing it, Di Shirtian instantly reached the 5th transformation of the Yaodan realm. His strength was more than 10 times stronger than before. Just the stairway to heaven, let's see how you can stop me. Bang bang bang! Amidst a series of heavy rumbling sounds, he firmly took another 3 steps up. He went up to the 8th stairway. However, at the same time, the vast pressure came crashing over like a tsunami. The space around Yishiwen was violently distorted. There were even more terrifying thunderbolts rumbling in the surroundings. Wave after wave, it was going to blow him off the stairway to heaven. Heavenly punishment, divine eye, open! At the last moment, the heavenly punishment divine eye opened, and the heavenly punishment divine light shot out, blasting the vast pressure in front of him, and took the opportunity to climb to the top. Huangji Empyrean Seal, Celestial Demon Seal. 4th layer of heaven, open for me! Di Shirtian roared at the pagoda door, and hit the door with the Celestial Demon Seal. In the blink of an eye, a vast force slammed the door open. Suddenly, a voice that could be crying or laughing rang in Di Shirtian's ears. Tisk tisk, it's been 60,000 years, and it's finally time for me, Tian Silkworm Patriarch, to break free from his cage. Haha, I'm going to see the light of day again. I, Huang Quan, am going to see the light of day again. Quick, 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 little brother, let me out. Nonsense, a worm like you wants to fight with me? You should save me first. As soon as the door opened, Di Shirtian didn't have the chance to see what was in the 4th layer of heaven. A strange noise rang in his ears, and it kept pouring into his mind. Old monster Huang Quan, Tian Silkworm Patriarch? However, his reaction was astonishing. Almost in a flash, he understood who would appear in the Linglong Treasure Pagoda. It must be the 2 heavenly demons that were suppressed here by heavenly demon Ziyu. As soon as he stepped into the 4th layer of heaven, a message naturally entered his mind. Linglong Treasure Pagoda's 4th layer, time reversal 150 times. It's increased by 50 times. Di Shirtian sucked in a breath of cold air. Here, time was reversed 150 times. It meant that 1 year outside the pagoda was 150 years inside the pagoda. This kind of reversal made him feel the heaven-defying power of the Linglong Treasure Pagoda. Fortunately, although it was inconceivable, it was still within his expectations. His eyes focused, and he swept his gaze in front of him. Splash! The sound of water splashing could be heard, and an endless stream of water could be seen. Shockingly, a long river that stretched for an unknown length lay before their eyes. Countless remnant souls were sinking indeterminately within the river, and they were letting out shrill and miserable cries. A majestic aura came head-on, and he couldn't see the end of it. On top of it, an ancient bridge spanned across the river. 500 chapters, it's finally reached 500 chapters. It's really not easy to come this far. It's all thanks to the support of my brothers. I believe that as long as I have the support of my brothers, there will be 600 chapters, 700 chapters, or even 800 chapters. Thank you, everyone, for your continuous support. Let's keep going. Chapter 501. The ancient bridge was simple and unadorned. Its color was snow-white, like snowflakes falling in winter. It was so white that people couldn't bear to destroy it. It was like the floating clouds in the sky, emitting a mysterious aura that transcended the mortal world. Unpredictably, countless cloud seals appeared on the ancient bridge. They constantly fluttered in the air, as if they had turned into pure white clouds. From the looks of it, it looked like a bridge of clouds. It was so pure and holy that people couldn't bear to leave any blemishes on it, as if it was a sin. Huang Quan Holy River and the Heavenly Yinyang Bridge. Di Shitian looked at the scene in front of him, and his eyes emitted a bright divine light. His originally apprehensive mood immediately calmed down. His eyes sparkled as he looked at the things in front of him. The Heavenly Yinyang Bridge was incomparably huge. It was like a white rainbow that spanned across the entire void, connecting to that unpredictable and mysterious place. It spanned across the Huang Quan Holy River. Even birds couldn't cross the Huang Quan Holy River. Only this ancient bridge could cross it. Otherwise, even immortals couldn't think of flying across the bridge. Regardless of whether one was riding a cloud or riding a divine light, all of these techniques and divine lights would naturally dissipate on the Yellow Springs sacred river. They couldn't stay in the air at all. It was a natural moat. An uncrossable natural moat. These two treasures are really here. As long as I get them, my heavenly punishment divine eyes will definitely be promoted again. The Heavenly Yinyang Bridge can help me get endless benefits from the myriad treasure Scarlet Tide. Haha, Heavenly Demon Ziyu, you really left me a great fortune. Di Shitian thought of the benefits he could get after getting all of these things, and his eyes couldn't help but emit light. Hey, kid, what are you looking at? Take care of us two seniors first. Quick, quick, quick. Save us from this damned cold light mirror. An impatient voice sounded again. In the end it was almost sobbing as it muttered, Damn Ziyu, you crazy woman. Why did you have to suppress me, the heavenly silkworm patriarch, here? Damn it. How many years has it been since the ancient times? I've had enough of these days. Humph, you're being suppressed by the cold light mirror, but do you think I'm having a good time? This 5 elements mountain weighs over 10 million kilograms, and it's hard for me to even move. The 5 elements reinforced and restrained each other. It was too ruthless. Back then, you just wanted to hide in seclusion and not come out. Why did you have to suppress me for such a long time? Old monster Huang Quan also shouted angrily. These curses also awakened Di Shitian from his shock when he saw Huang Quan's holy river and the heaven-reaching Yinyang Bridge. He suddenly remembered that Ziyue once said that there were 2 celestial demons that had existed since ancient times in the secret realm. He hurriedly looked in the direction of the voice. He couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. On the empty seat on the left side, in the void, there was a purple full moon hanging in the air. From the purple moon, a beam of purple light like a heaven-reaching divine pillar fell straight down, covering an area with a radius of 1,000 feet below. Within this pillar of light, there was a man wearing a silver-white robe. His hair and beard had all turned snow-white, but his face was abnormally young. He had a youthful appearance, but he had the white hair and beard of an old man. The contrast between the two was completely different. Not only did it not give people a strange feeling, it gave people a very harmonious and normal impression. However, there was a deep sense of decadence on his body. Outside his body, a thick layer of ice actually condensed. The ground had already been completely sealed by ice. Even on his body, ice crystals were unceasingly spreading out, before they were shattered by his tyrannical demonic chi. The cycle repeated, unceasingly. This was the heavenly silkworm patriarch. He was bound by the purple moon above his head and couldn't escape at all. That was not a purple moon, but a miraculous ancient mirror. It was called the Cold Light Mirror, and it was one of the treasures that Purple Moon carried with her in the past. Not far away there was a mountain. This mountain was very strange. There were actually 5 peaks standing up, like 5 fingers of a person, surrounding each other to form a complete mountain. And each peak of the mountain had a different color: green, red, gold, yellow, and blue. The light of the power of the 5 elements flickered on it. They intertwined and connected together, and kept circulating in the power of the 5 elements. On each peak there was an ancient seal demon character. Di Shitian had learned the ancient demon character long ago, so naturally, He could easily recognize the meaning of the demon character on it. It was the 5 ancient demon characters of metal, wood, water, fire, and earth. It constantly flickered with a strong divine light. At the foot of the mountain, an old man with dark green hair was pressed down. It was so pitiful that only his head was still exposed. His whole body was pressed down under the mountain. He couldn't break free. It was just like the Monkey King in the journey to the west that Di Shirtian saw in his previous life when he was suppressed under the 5 elements mountain. As for the 5 elements divine light, it spun like a millstone, and the suppressed old monster revealed a miserable expression. He became a little dispirited. Obviously, this was not a good thing. It seemed that the power of the 5 elements was obliterating his magic power and divine soul. One was suppressed under the cold light mirror, and the other was suppressed under the 5 elements mountain. A full 100,000 years. If it was anyone else, they would have long turned into ashes. Only a sky demon's cultivation and an indestructible body could last until now. Who are you? When Di Shirtian saw them, his eyes turned slightly, but he didn't call out their identities. He asked indifferently as if he didn't know. Who are we? When Patriarch Tian Silkworm heard this, he quickly looked at old monster Huang Quan. Could it be that Purple Moon didn't tell this junior their identities? As he thought about it, he didn't reveal anything on his face. After that, he revealed an amiable expression as he looked at Sakura and spoke gently. You should be a descendant of the demon race. We are famous heavenly demons of the ancient demon race. In fact, we can be considered as your ancestors. That's right. Old monster Huang Quan continued with a face full of grief and indignation. Back then, in the ancient times, the 2 of us fought against those despicable humans who betrayed us and fought for a chance of survival for our demon clan. I don't know who did it behind our backs and suppressed the 2 of us here. It's been a full 100,000 years. If the 2 of us hadn't been plotted against back then and joined the battle against the humans would have definitely been defeated, Patriarch Tian Silkworm said without hesitation. The 2 old monsters who had survived from the ancient times spoke one after another, describing their image as incomparably fearless and extremely brave, as if they were heroes of the demon clan. Their image was incomparably lofty. Their great achievements were enough to prove the sun and moon. When Di Shirtian heard this, his expression didn't change at all, but he sneered in his heart. If Ziyue hadn't told him what kind of characters were suppressed back then, he might have been confused by their vivid narration. Although he hadn't seen what happened back then with his own eyes, he didn't even need to think about who to believe between Ziyue and these 2 old monsters. Now, he could only watch coldly as the 2 old monsters continued to bicker with each other. You want me to let you out, Di Shirtian said indifferently. He glanced at the mountain and the full moon in the sky. Yes, yes, yes. Patriarch Tian Silkworm raised his eyebrows and said excitedly, You are Ziyue's chosen successor. We had a good relationship with her back then. Hurry up and let us out. Once we're out of this cage, I have endless benefits to give you. My celestial silkworm's 9 transformations was a top cultivation method back in the ancient times. If you help me leave, I'll teach you this method. How about it? I'll also give you a treasure. I guarantee your strength will increase greatly. That's right. My Huang Quan's soul refining method is also a top cultivation method. If you want it, I'll teach it to you when I'm free. The 2 old monsters kept promising endless benefits and treasures. It sounded so tempting that even immortals would be tempted. At this moment, they seemed to have transformed into demons, wholeheartedly tempting Di Shirtian to open the seal and let them go. Their lies were full of flaws. Di Shirtian shook his head and sneered inwardly. He didn't need to think to see through all the loopholes in the 2 old monsters' word. They wanted to fool him with this little benefit? What a joke. Not only did he want the promised treasures, but he also didn't want to let the 2 old monsters off the hook. Wanting to tease the two old monsters, he said in a mocking tone, "Old monster Huang Quan and Patriarch Tian Silkworm, I've heard of you before. It's said that you planned to go into seclusion during the Great War between the human race and the monster race to avoid responsibility. Later, you were captured by Ziue and imprisoned in the heavenly monster's secret realm. Since when have you become great heroes of the monster race?" As soon as he said this, the two old monsters who were still promising endless benefits couldn't help but be stunned. Old monsters who had lived for so many years were naturally no fools. They immediately realized that they had been tricked by this little demon in front of them. "Humph! So you knew all along. How dare you lie to us? You're courting death." Even old Ancestor Tian Silkworm's snow-white beard stood up. His eyes widened in anger, and a vast aura pressed down on Indra with earth-shattering momentum. Boom! Boom! Sakura only felt that the space outside his body suddenly congealed, as if it had completely solidified. Then, a pressure that was even more terrifying than when he was on the heaven's stairway suddenly fell on him. It was as if the sky was falling. There was a terrible roar in the air, and in an instant, he felt as if all the bones in his body were about to be crushed. The soil under his feet couldn't bear it and swallowed his feet. His whole body kept sinking into the ground. He was being pressed into the ground. Since the temptation failed, he immediately began to threaten, using force to suppress. With the terrifying aura of a heavenly monster, it exerted pressure on a little ancient monster king like Di Shirtian. It was like an elephant trying to crush an ant. Chapter 502. The ancient bridge was simple and unadorned. Its color was snow-white, like snowflakes falling in winter. It was so white that people couldn't bear to destroy it. It was like the floating clouds in the sky, emitting a mysterious aura that transcended the mortal world. Unpredictably, countless cloud seals appeared on the ancient bridge. They constantly fluttered in the air, as if they had turned into pure white clouds. From the looks of it, it looked like a bridge of clouds. It was so pure and holy that people couldn't bear to leave any blemishes on it, as if it was a sin. Huang Quan Holy River and the Heavenly Yin-Yang Bridge. Di Shirtian looked at the scene in front of him, and his eyes emitted a bright divine light. His originally apprehensive mood immediately calmed down. His eyes sparkled as he looked at the things in front of him. The Heavenly Yin-Yang Bridge was incomparably huge. It was like a white rainbow that spanned across the entire void, connecting to that unpredictable and mysterious place. It spanned across the Huang Quan Holy River. Even birds couldn't cross the Huang Quan Holy River. Only this ancient bridge could cross it. Otherwise, even immortals couldn't think of flying across the bridge. Regardless of whether one was riding a cloud or riding a divine light, all of these techniques and divine lights would naturally dissipate on the Yellow Springs sacred river. They couldn't stay in the air at all. It was a natural moat. An uncrossable natural moat. These two treasures are really here. As long as I get them, my heavenly punishment divine eyes will definitely be promoted again. The Heavenly Yin-Yang Bridge can help me get endless benefits from the myriad treasures Scarlet Tide. Haha, Heavenly Demon Ziyu, you really left me a great fortune. Di Shirtian thought of the benefits he could get after getting all of these things, and his eyes couldn't help but emit light. Hey, kid, what are you looking at? Take care of us two seniors first. Quick, quick, quick. Save us from this damned cold light mirror. An impatient voice sounded again. In the end it was almost sobbing as it muttered, "Damn Ziyu, you crazy woman. Why did you have to suppress me, the Heavenly Silkworm Patriarch, here? Damn it. How many years has it been since the ancient times? I've had enough of these days." "Humph, you're being suppressed by the cold light mirror, but do you think I'm having a good time? This 5 elements mountain weighs over 10 million kilograms, and it's hard for me to even move." The 5 elements reinforced and restrained each other. It was too ruthless. Back then, you just wanted to hide in seclusion and not come out. Why did you have to suppress me for such a long time? Old monster Huang Quan also shouted angrily. These curses also awakened Di Shirtian from his shock when he saw Huang Quan's holy river and the heaven-reaching Yinyang Bridge. He suddenly remembered that Ziyue once said that there were 2 celestial demons that had existed since ancient times in the secret realm. He hurriedly looked in the direction of the voice. He couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. On the empty seat on the left side, in the void, there was a purple full moon hanging in the air. From the purple moon, a beam of purple light like a heaven-reaching divine pillar fell straight down, covering an area with a radius of 1,000 feet below. In this light pillar, there was a man wearing a silver-white robe. His hair and beard had all turned snow-white, but his face had an abnormally youthful appearance. His youthful appearance had the white hair and beard of an old man. Looking at the stark contrast between the two, not only did it not give off a strange feeling, but it also gave off a very harmonious and normal impression. However, there was a deep sense of decadence on his body. Outside his body, a thick layer of ice crystals actually condensed. The ground had already been completely frozen. Even on his body, the ice crystals were unceasingly spreading. Using his tyrannical demonic chi, he shattered them, repeating the cycle over and over again, unceasingly. This was the heavenly silkworm patriarch. He was bound by the purple moon above his head and couldn't escape at all. That was not a purple moon, but a miraculous ancient mirror. It was called the Cold Light Mirror, and it was one of the treasures that Purple Moon carried with her in the past. Not far away there was a mountain. This mountain was very strange. There were actually 5 peaks standing up, like 5 fingers of a person, surrounding each other to form a complete mountain. And each peak of the mountain had a different color: green, red, gold, yellow, and blue. The light of the power of the 5 elements flickered on it. They intertwined and connected together, and kept circulating in the power of the 5 elements. On each peak there was an ancient seal demon character. Di Shirtian had learned the ancient demon character long ago, so naturally he could easily recognize the meaning of the demon character on it. It was the 5 ancient demon characters of metal, wood, water, fire, and earth. It constantly flickered with a strong divine light. At the foot of the mountain, there was an old man with a head full of dark green hair. It was so pitiful that only his head was left outside. His whole body was pressed down under the mountain. He couldn't break free. It was just like the Monkey King in the journey to the west that Di Shirtian had seen in his previous life when he was suppressed under the 5 elements mountain. As for the 5 elements divine light, it spun like a millstone, and the suppressed old monster revealed a miserable expression. He became a little dispirited. Obviously, this was not a good thing. It seemed that the power of the 5 elements was obliterating his spiritual power and soul. One was suppressed under the cold light mirror, and the other was suppressed under the 5 elements mountain. For a full 100,000 years. If it were anyone else, they would have long been reduced to ashes. Only this heavenly demon's cultivation had reached an indestructible body, so he could last until now. Who are you? When Di Shirtian saw them, his eyes turned slightly, but he didn't call out their identities. He asked indifferently as if he didn't know. Who are we? When Patriarch Tian Silkworm heard this, he quickly looked at old monster Huang Quan. Could it be that Purple Moon didn't tell this junior our identities? As he thought about it, he didn't reveal any emotions on his face. He then revealed an amiable expression as he looked at Sakura and said gently, "You should be a descendant of the demon race. We are famous heavenly demons from the ancient demon race. Speaking of which, we can be considered your ancestors." That's right. Old monster Huang Quan continued with a face full of grief and indignation. Back then, in the ancient times, the 2 of us fought against those despicable humans who betrayed us. When we fought for a chance of survival for our demon clan, we were suppressed here by someone behind the scenes. It's been a full 100,000 years. If the two of us hadn't been plotted against back then and joined the battle against the humans would have definitely been defeated, Patriarch Tion Silkworm said without hesitation. The two old monsters who had survived from the ancient times spoke one after another, describing their image as incomparably fearless and extremely brave, as if they were heroes of the demon clan. Their image was incomparably lofty. Their great achievements were enough to prove the sun and moon. When Tion heard this, his expression didn't change at all, but he sneered in his heart. If Ziyue hadn't told him what kind of characters were suppressed back then, he might have been confused by their vivid narration. Although he hadn't seen what happened back then with his own eyes, he didn't even need to think about who to believe between Ziyue and these two old monsters. Now, he could only watch coldly as the two old monsters argued with each other. "You want me to let you out," Tion said indifferently. He glanced at the mountain and the full moon in the sky. "That's right. That's right. That's right." Patriarch Tion Silkworm raised his eyebrows and said excitedly, "You are Ziyue's chosen successor. We had a good relationship with her back then. Hurry up and let us out. Once we're out of this cage, this old ancestor has endless benefits to give you. My celestial silkworm 9 transformations was a top cultivation method in the ancient times. Once you help me out, I'll teach you this method. How about it? I'll also give you a treasure. I guarantee your strength will increase greatly." "That's right. My Huang Quan soul refinement method is also a top cultivation method. If you want it, I'll teach it to you when I'm free." The two old monsters kept promising endless benefits and all kinds of treasures. It was so tempting that even immortals would be tempted. At this moment, they seemed to have turned into demons, wholeheartedly tempting Tion so that he would open the seal and let them go. This lie was full of flaws. Tion shook his head and sneered inside. He didn't need to think at all to see through the loopholes in the two old monsters' words. They wanted to fool him with this little bit of benefits? What a joke. Not only did he want the promised benefits, but he also didn't want to let the two old monsters off the hook. Wanting to tease the two old monsters, he said in a mocking tone, "Old monster Huang Quan and Patriarch Tion Silkworm, I've heard of you before. It's said that during the Great War between the human race and the monster race, you planned to go into seclusion to avoid responsibility. Later, you were captured by Ziyue and imprisoned in the heavenly monster mystic realm. Since when did you become great heroes of the monster race?" Ugh! The two old monsters who were still promising endless benefits couldn't help but pause at the same time. Old monsters who had lived for so many years were no fools. They immediately realized that they had been tricked by this little monster. So you knew all about it. How dare you lie to us? You're courting death." Even old Ancestor Tion Silkworm's snow-white beard stood up. His eyes widened in anger as a boundless aura surged out from his body and pressed down on Sakura like a landslide. Boom boom boom. Tion only felt that the space around him suddenly solidified. Then, a pressure even more terrifying than when he was on the stairway to heaven fell on him. It was as if the sky was falling. There was a terrible roar in the air, and in an instant, he felt as if all the bones in his body were being crushed. The soil under his feet couldn't bear it and swallowed his feet. His entire body kept sinking into the ground. He was actually being pressed into the ground. Since the temptation didn't work, he immediately began to threaten, using force to suppress. With the terrifying aura of the heavenly monster, it exerted pressure on Tion, a mere ancient monster king. It was like an elephant trying to trample an ant to death. To be continued. If you want to know what will happen next, please go to www.chidian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author, support the original reading. Chapter 503. Roar! Indra Tianhu's eyes flashed with radiance. He didn't dodge at all as he stared at old Ancestor Tian Silkworm. The black hair behind his head danced crazily like a demon god. The muscles under his black robe were undulating like a dragon. He opened his mouth and let out a domineering tiger roar. The way of the Emperor, the absolute supremacy. The body of the Emperor, the prestige of the world. All lands belong to the Emperor, and all are the Emperor's subjects. Those who follow me prosper, those who defy me perish. The heavens cannot bury me, and the earth cannot bury me. Boom, boom, boom. Di Shirtian's Extreme Emperor World Shocking Book was activated to the maximum. In his mind, the general outline of the way of the Emperor appeared like a tide. In an instant, his aura surged wildly. The Emperor's aura of supremacy whizzed out and soared into the sky like billowing smoke signals. It was domineering, noble, and mighty. A vast and boundless aura spread out. Everywhere it went, it was like the ruler of the world. His body glowed and expanded at a speed visible to the naked eye. Boom, boom, boom. His body shook the void as he grew rapidly. 100 feet, 100 feet, 200 feet, in the blink of an eye, his body expanded to 500 feet. As his body expanded, he released all of his power. The terrifying pressure shook the surrounding space, and he broke free from the restraint of Patriarch Tian Silkworm's aura. Instead, a majestic aura pressed against Tian Silkworm. Patriarch Tian Silkworm, an ancient giant. Humph! Do you really think I'm afraid of you just because you're an ancient giant? Di Shirtian's body grew to 500 feet, and his eyes were as big as bronze bells. The candlelight flickered, and he exuded a domineering aura. He formed the Extreme Emperor-Empyrean seal in his hand, and a majestic aura gathered instantly. It made him look even more majestic, like a demon standing proudly in the sky. The purple-gold mask had a hint of coldness. He looked coldly at Tian Silkworm and said, "I could survive the attack of an ancient giant that day. You think you can scare me with your powerful aura?" The aura of the unique and righteous shrouded Shao Chen's body, blocking the heavenly silkworm's aura. It was unable to suppress him. Sky Silkworm Ancestor's expression drastically changed as he stared at Sakura in disbelief. Strong on the outside but weak on the inside. That's right, Sakura was indeed strong on the outside but weak on the inside. His cultivation base and demonic chi had almost been completely depleted in the past 100,000 years. Furthermore, he couldn't absorb the energy of heaven and earth from the outside world to replenish his cultivation base. Right now, even his inner world had withered, becoming incomparably desolate. Even so, with his heavenly demon aura, any ordinary ancient demon king would have been crushed to the ground with just a push of his heavenly demon aura. It trembled incessantly. To think that it was actually able to break free. The aura it emitted was actually able to block it. This was simply inconceivable. Only a great demon would have such a possibility. I, the unique and righteous, the Emperor's Qi. You actually cultivate the Tao of the Emperor. When old monster Huang Quan saw this, he was speechless. He could not believe that the junior in front of him could cultivate the way of the Emperor to such a level. One should know that among all the great Daos in the world, the most difficult one to cultivate was the way of the Emperor. First of all, one had to be born with the Emperor's Qi and possess an astonishing Emperor's secret art. More importantly, one had to be a king. The most important thing was the Emperor's secret art. Even in the ancient times, no one had been able to cultivate the way of the Emperor to its peak. There was no supreme Emperor's secret art that had ever appeared. What kind of cultivation technique did he learn? To be able to cultivate such overbearing Emperor's Qi at the Demon King realm, it's comparable to the Emperor's Qi of the ancient times. Huang Quan was so shocked that his jaw almost dropped. It was a little too unbelievable that a demon king could withstand the pressure of a heavenly demon. That's impossible! Sky Silkworm Ancestor exclaimed. Nothing is impossible, Yizichin said. Di Shurtian said coldly, although you are heavenly demons, the energy in your body has withered. Under the suppression of the two supreme treasures of the purple moon, you can't absorb any energy to replenish yourselves. After 100,000 years of continuous suppression, you are already at the end of your rope. You want to suppress me with your weak bow? If you can't break out of the cage, given your exhausted energy and empty condition, the 5 decays of the celestial being will immediately descend. At that time, given your current situation, you will inevitably die under the 5 decays of the celestial being. Huang Quan and Sky Silkworm ancestors' faces changed at the same time. Their faces became very unsightly. Obviously, Di Shurtian's words had hit their sore spot. A good opportunity, a good opportunity! Nether almost jumped up in excitement in the Nether prison. 2 heavenly demons. If it were in the ancient times, ordinary people wouldn't be able to subdue them. Now is the time when they are at their weakest. This is the only chance to subdue them. If you have 2 heavenly demons by your side, it will be of great benefit to you in the future. Heavenly demons, even if their energy was exhausted and their foundation was almost damaged, were still heavenly demons. As long as they recovered, they would be the top fighting force below the peerless experts. At the thought of being able to subdue heavenly demons, Nether's excitement reached its limit. His eyes widened as he cried out, "Lunatic D, I'll tell you a set of enslavement mystic arts. This mystic arts is my master's proud work. In the ancient times, my master defeated all the ancient giants who offended him and subdued them with this mystic arts. They were loyal to him, and none of them dared to rebel. I'll teach it to you. When the time comes, you can trick those 2 old farts. They certainly won't expect you to have this mystic art." His words were full of pride. At the same time, Di Shurtian felt a large amount of information rush into his mind, allowing him to instantly understand the essence of the mystic arts. Although the mystic arts were incomparably magical, it wasn't too complicated to perform. It was called the 100 Generations Slave Seal. As the name implied, if the 100 Generations Slave Seal fell on one's body, even if one reincarnated 100 times, they wouldn't be able to wash off the seal. They would forever be the slave of the owner of the seal, and they wouldn't have the slightest intention of rebelling. This set of slave seals was one of the mystic arts that could be used on ancient giants. It was very profound. It had never been spread out. Only Nether. If it were anyone else, they wouldn't have been able to obtain it. Good. Nether immediately begin to condense the 100 Generations Slave Seal. Di Shurtian couldn't help but exclaim in his heart. What kind of existence were heavenly demons? He already had a rough impression of how terrifying a heavenly demon could be if he couldn't withstand it once. If he were to let these 2 old monsters out easily, with their cowardly nature of bullying the weak and fearing the strong in the ancient times, he was afraid that he wouldn't be able to restrain them. At that time, it would be a thankless task. In fact, he was also very nervous about whether to let them go or not. It was hard to decide. Now that he had this set of slave seals, a plan immediately appeared in Di Shurtian's mind. He immediately snorted and said, "I know the way to let you out, but it's very simple if you want me to let you out." He paused, glanced at Huang Quan and Tian Can, and said majestically, "Submit to me." At the same time, Nether also condensed the 100 Generations Slave Seal in the Heaven Punishment Divine Eye, extracting the soul, blood essence, and even the power of the Heaven Punishment Divine Eye from Di Shurtian's body. The power of desire fused together to condense the 100 Generations Slave Seal that belonged to Di Shurtian. Once it was imprinted on someone, they would immediately not be able to escape his control. From now on, even their lives would be completely connected to him. If the master died, the servant would die. What? You want us 2 heavenly demons to submit to a junior like you? You're dreaming. When Tian Can Patriarch heard this, His eyes narrowed and he almost jumped up. He blew his beard and widened his eyes. Asking a heavenly demon to be loyal to a little demon king was simply a joke. Okay, we'll submit. However, Huang Quan rolled his eyes and said something completely different from what Tiankin Patriarch said. Acheron, you old monster, have you gone mad? A dignified heavenly Yao is actually going to submit to a puny Yao king. If news of this were to spread, we won't be able to see anyone in the future. We'll just drill into the ground, Tiankin cursed. Although he liked to bully the weak and fear the strong, he seemed to be particularly persistent in this matter. When the Yellow Spring saw this, he suddenly used his divine sense to transmit a message. Celestial worm, you're the one who's stupid. You want face, but do you think I don't want face? Submitting to a demon king is something I can't do. However, don't forget, if our 5 decay of the celestial being continues like this, I'm afraid it won't even take 1,000 years before it descends. You're the one with the most schemes. Do you have any ideas? Tell me. Tiankin also communicated with divine thought and asked anxiously. TSK, have you lost your mind from anger? Although the two of us have fallen to such a state and our strength is almost completely exhausted, don't forget that our realms, our bodies, and our primordial spirits are all heavenly demons. As long as we submit now and wait for him to rescue us, with our realms and identities, we can directly turn hostile. How can a mere demon king restrain us 2 heavenly demons? That's right. In ancient times, there were indeed secret techniques that could restrain us heavenly demons. However, such secret techniques were precious in ancient times and were not passed down. That crazy woman Ziyue wouldn't know. Even if this brat obtained Ziyue's inheritance, he wouldn't know such a secret technique. Without such a supreme secret technique, the other secret techniques won't be able to restrain us. Once we trick him into opening the seal, we'll be able to do whatever we want. Tiankin immediately understood and laughed strangely. He seemed to have seen the time to escape. These were all communicated through divine thought. The time it happened was only a flash. In the eyes of outsiders, they just looked at each other. Suddenly, they said in unison, "Okay, as long as you save us, we'll submit to you." This sudden change naturally fell into Di Shirtian's eyes. How could he not figure out that they must have a plan and there must be some conspiracy behind it? However, he was not afraid at all. He sneered inwardly. No matter what trump card you have, as long as I send this 100 generations slave seal into your body, no matter how many tricks you have, you can only submit to me. If you want to know what happened next, please go to www.chidian.com. More chapters, support the author, support the original reading. Chapter 504. Di Shirtian wouldn't feel at ease if the 2 old monsters were to swear an oath. Although oaths were extremely serious in this world filled with immortals and Buddhas, they were usually effective. No matter who it was, they wouldn't easily make an oath. Once it came true, it was no laughing matter. After breaking the oath, there would be a heavenly tribulation, and the heavenly punishment would directly blast you into ashes. However, these 2 old monsters were experts in the heavenly demon realm. They had already made a name for themselves in the ancient times. Now, under the suppression of the purple moon, they still managed to hold on for 100,000 years without being obliterated. It could be seen that the old monsters in that realm couldn't be judged with common sense. No one knew if they had any powerful means in their hand. It was terrifying to be out of the control of the oath. This wasn't safe. Sakura didn't want to be remembered by these 2 old monsters who were once heavenly demons every day. Once he betrayed them, he wouldn't even have a place to cry. What's more, these 2 monsters already had a history as early as in ancient times. At the moment when their race was facing extinction, they still wanted to hide. With such temperament, how could he believe their oath? Only when he truly had them in his hands and under the premise that they would never betray him, would he dare to release them from the seal. Otherwise, no matter what they said, he would immediately turn and leave. If it wasn't for Ming's skill and the secret technique of the 100 Generations slave seal, he wouldn't have spent so much effort on this. He would rather let these two old monsters die from the 5 decay of heaven and man than release these two terrifying fellows. The 100 Generations slave seal. Once it was branded on the other party, the power of the seal would constantly transmit thoughts of loyalty to the master into the other party's mind, constantly changing the other party's will. The memories wouldn't change, but it would make them unwaveringly loyal to the master. Once they had any thoughts of betrayal, the power of the seal would immediately make them experience an unforgettable pain for the rest of their lives. If they were loyal and devoted, the seal wouldn't harm them. Instead, it would allow the servant to inherit a divine ability that belonged to the master. It would also allow the servant to obtain great benefits as the master's strength increased. It wasn't just slavery. It also had great benefits. However, as the saying goes, if the master is humiliated, the servant will die. Once the master died, the servant would also not be able to survive and would die with him. However, if the servant died, the master would not suffer any damage, but the servant would be able to retain a strand of his soul. As long as he paid a certain price, he could still be resurrected and reconstruct his true body. In short, once the slave seal landed on a person's body, the person's life would have an inseparable connection with the owner of the slave seal. I can't get rid of it anymore. Lunatic D, the 100 Generations slave seal, has been successfully refined, but I want to take a drop of your blood. Fuse with the slave seal, and make you the master of the slave seal. At this moment, Ming had finished refining the two slave seals. The slave seals were in the form of a grayish, chaotic fog. They seemed to have no form and were constantly churning. All right. D. Shirtion agreed without hesitation. With a thought, he forced out 2 drops of faint golden blood from his heart. That was the hot blood of his heart. Every drop of essence blood was very precious. If it was damaged, it would greatly damage one's vitality. Ordinary cultivators would need to recuperate for at least 10 to 20 years to recover. However, he had consumed the source of life, so the life force in his body was very strong. This little bit of damage was still bearable. As soon as the 2 drops of essence blood fell into the 2 clouds of fog, countless divine lights intertwined in the fog, giving off a mysterious aura. They quickly gathered in the middle and condensed into 2 strange beads. The beads were grayish, and no color could be seen. However, they emitted a vast and ancient aura. They were extremely mysterious. As soon as the 100 Generations slave seal was successfully refined, D. Shirtion felt a mysterious connection with the 2 beads. He couldn't help but be secretly happy. All of this took a long time to describe, but in fact, it happened in the blink of an eye. It was as if he was pondering for a moment after Huang Quan and the others said that they wanted to submit. A divine light flashed in his eyes as he glanced at the 2 monsters in front of him and said, "All right, since you are willing to submit to this king, I, D. Shirtion, am not a stingy person. In the future, as long as there is something for me, there will naturally be something for you. However, for the sake of peace, please accept these 2 little things. Otherwise, I won't dare to let you out rashly." He said this in a casual tone. At the same time, the purple mark between his eyebrows flashed. The 2 strange beads formed by the 100 Generations slave seal flew out and imprinted between the 2 old monsters' eyebrows at a slow speed. The speed was not fast. If Huang Quan and Tian Can wanted to resist, they would have enough time to react. This was also D. Shirtion's test. Huang Quan and Tian Can looked at each other and couldn't help but see a mocking sneer in each other's eyes. They knew that he would definitely use some method to put some *T restriction in our bodies. However, what kind of powerful restriction could a little demon king know? With just this little bit of knowledge, he wants to control us sky demons. What a joke! I'll let you do it now and temporarily pretend that you are under the restriction. I'll show you in the future. The two old monsters were very disdainful of De Chertien's method in their hearts. They didn't think that there was any powerful restriction in the hands of this junior that could do anything to them. As for the strange beads flying over, they didn't reject them at all. They didn't resist or dodge at all. They were still thinking about how to deal with De Chertien after they went out and recovered in the future. Puff! Puff! As soon as the two slave seals touched between their eyebrows, they immediately broke open a hole and directly embedded in it. At the same time, as soon as they touched their blood, the entire slave seal instantly spread to their whole body like a parasite. Their flesh, blood, and primordial spirits were instantly covered. Their primordial spirits were bound. Ah! Ah! Two blood-curdling screams rang out at the same time. There was an inexplicable fear in the screams. The 100 Generations Slave Seal. This is the unique 100 Generations Slave Seal of the Emperor of the Underworld in ancient times. How is it possible? How can this be the 100 Generations Slave Seal? Oh my God, it's over, it's completely over. Patriarch Tion Silkworm screamed with a sobbing tone. His face was about to turn bitter. I'm despicable, I'm really despicable. Why did I take this thing? I regret it. It's all over this time. Huang Quan, you bastard, it's all your fault. If it weren't for you, I wouldn't have been put with this damned 100 Generations Slave Seal. Tion Silkworm, you're so hateful. How did I know that this kid would know about the 100 Generations Slave Seal? Damn it, this slave seal, even in ancient times, no one knew about it. It's the Emperor of the Underworld's unique secret technique. How did it get passed down? It's over. Patriarch Tion Silkworm also had a mournful face. Since the slave seal entered their bodies, with their knowledge, how could they not know what it was? They were so scared that their souls almost jumped out of their bodies. This thing was famous for being difficult to deal with in ancient times. The key was that in order for the slave seal to enter the body, the target must first not resist and have no thoughts of resistance. Only then would it succeed. Originally, the two of them thought that it was just an ordinary seal. They even looked at it coldly and fearlessly guided it into their bodies. Patriarch Tion Silkworm really wanted to slap himself in the face. He didn't know whether to laugh or cry. I'm so unlucky. When did this unlucky kid become me? Ah! The moment the thought of rebelling appeared in their minds, an irresistible pain immediately came from their bodies and even their primordial spirit. That kind of pain was simply unbearable. Even the heavenly demons couldn't resist it and screamed in pain. With their status as heavenly demons, how could they easily submit? The moment the thought of rebelling appeared in their minds, they immediately suffered the backlash of the 100 Generations Slave Seal. Screams of agony resounded in the air. Their bodies were covered in cold sweat. Even their faces were twisted in pain. In their hearts, they almost wanted to commit suicide. This 100 Generations Slave Seal is really powerful. When De Chertien saw that even the heavenly demons couldn't help but cry out in pain, he couldn't help but be shocked by the terror of the 100 Generations Slave Seal. Of course it's powerful. This 100 Generations Slave Seal contains all kinds of terrifying punishment. One of them is a terrifying innate ability of the Scorpion tribe, Poisonous Hitching Post. That poisonous hitching post isn't something that anyone can withstand. It's said that even an unparalleled expert would suffer unbearable pain. So what if you're a heavenly demon? You can't withstand it. Ming shouted proudly. Poisonous hitching post? De Chertien couldn't help but gasp. That was really vicious. This thing was no joke. Even the golden body couldn't withstand it. Once one was pierced, it would be so painful that even tears would fall out. Even Buddha couldn't do anything about it. When he looked at the two old monsters, he couldn't help but reveal a trace of sympathy. Huang Quan, Tian Can, with a thought, Sakra's body shrunk in an instant, turning from a giant to a normal size. He stood proudly in front of the two old monsters and said in a deep voice, "Once the century slave imprint enters the body, it can't be removed for life. The more you resist, the heavier the pain you will suffer. As long as you are loyal to me, you will benefit greatly in the future. Why resist? You resist for the sake of your dignity as heavenly demons. Let me tell you, sooner or later, I will become a heavenly demon. I have the confidence to reach the peak and become an unparalleled expert." I rose from nothing. 20 years ago, I was just an ordinary tiger in the secular mountain range. Now, in just a short period of time, I have become a demon king. Who can say that I won't become a heavenly demon in 1,000 years? 10,000 years later, I won't become an unparalleled expert. I created the Emperor Path Absolute Art, Imperial World Shocking Book. Once the book is completed, heaven and earth will weep and ghosts will be frightened. If I can't reach the peak, who would dare to? Confidence, arrogance. De Chertion looked at the void proudly, his body exuding a powerful supreme aura. If you want to know what will happen next, please go to www.chidian.com. There are more chapters. Support the author. Support the original reading. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.